Hey everyone, welcome to episode 7 of the Enlightened Neanderthals podcast. We have a guest today. Her name is Kourtney Fleming, and she has been a professional in the firearms industry, I believe, since she was a teenager. She is currently the sales manager for Benchmark Barrels, a custom, or I guess precision barrel making company right here in Arlington, Washington. She writes pistol reviews for magazines, and she is a co-host of a show on Handgun TV. And she is herself an accomplished long-range shooter, which is awesome. I wanted to take a few minutes in this introduction and talk about my own company, Training Northwest, which I founded almost exactly a year ago because we are a firearms training company, and it sort of ties in with the theme of the show. So Training Northwest was conceived out of the insanity of 2020 and 2021, and looking around and just seeing how many folks were just really quickly willing to be sort of bullied and coerced. And I started realizing that I don't even know how it popped in front of me. It must have been on social media. I saw the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the base of the triangle is food, water, shelter, and safety/security. And I realized that when you can't provide those things for yourself, and you're reliant on someone else for your food, water, shelter, and safety, which most of us in America are, then you don't have a lot to stand on if you are going against the flow. And so I started thinking to myself, well, what can I do to sort of correct this situation? And because of my experience in the 75th Ranger Regiment and as a CIA contractor, the obvious answer was to teach firearms training, basic safety, marksmanship, and self-defense style firearms. And so that is how Training Northwest came to be. And during that time, my business partner, Greg Anderson, who some of you probably know from his Endless Endeavor podcast, he and I bought 30 acres in Granite Falls, right at the base of the Cascade Mountains. We cleared some space, made a firing range, and that is where we run our courses. We have levels 1, 2, and 3, the idea being to build some progression into our students. We don't want to just get you out for a 3-hour class. I use the analogy that you wouldn't go to a gym and lift weights for 3 hours and just say, yeah, I'm ready. I'm fit. Send me to the NFL Combine, coach. Carrying a gun is a lifelong commitment to continual training and continual proficiency. You can't take a 3-hour course and be ready to stick a gun in your belt. So that is why we have the level 1, 2, 3 classes. And just recently announced we're going to do a 3-day rifleman camp. Come out and you're going to be living out in the woods out of a tent and a sleeping bag or whatever you provide for yourself. I'm leaving it up to students. You can bring a tent, or you can do what we did in the Rangers and travel light, freeze at night. It's up to you. But there are only 4 slots left in that class as I'm recording this. So if that's something that interests you guys, get on our website, trainingnorthwestllc.com. And the concept of this class is we are basing it around the American Minutemen. And if you know your Revolutionary War history, Minutemen were workaday farmers, shopkeepers, blacksmiths, and just everyday civilians who made a commitment that if the British were to land an invasion force, they would keep their musket and all their equipment ready to go at a minute's notice. If you look at what's going on socially in our country, more and more, it seems like it might be a good idea for men to be ready to stand up and protect their families and communities. So this is an opportunity to come out, get all your equipment shaken out, actually live out of your backpack as though you had to leave your house at a minute's notice to go defend your community. And all of the course material is based around what the Army calls skill level 1 tasks, which are tasks that any private first class is expected to know cold. So we have marksmanship, land navigation and map reading, first aid, and we may dabble a little bit into ham radio in this one. I myself am not quite, educated, experienced enough yet with the ham radios to really teach it. So I think what I'm going to do is encourage people to bring one if they have one, and we'll spend a little time talking about radio theory and how to program them, but I don't think I'm going to go too into depth in it this year. All right. I think that's all I have. Again, trainingnorthwestllc.com. If you're in the area, come on out and see us. And if you're not, check out our 3-day rifleman course. It'd be worth the travel. All right, guys, enjoy episode 7.
Break.
You have an excuse.
You have the best excuse ever.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 7. Is this 7? Of the Enlightened Neanderthals podcast. We've got a guest in here with us today. Kourtney Fleming can we call this in studio?
This is the studio.
This is the studio. Okay. Yeah. So Kourtney Fleming is in studio. And I met Kourtney when Mike Glover came out and taught his Fieldcraft Survival class at our range in Granite Falls. She was out for the class, and it became very quickly obvious to Greg and Casey and I, who were the range safety officers, that she knew her way around a rifle.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, we made a point of having a little conversation with her to find out about her background. And immediately my thought was, oh man, she needs to come out as a instructor for the ladies only course at Training Northwest. But again, she has the best excuse for potty breaks and for not being a pistol instructor this year because she's expecting her first baby, correct?
Yep, a little boy.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Very excited.
When do you do?
August, maybe. They just moved it up because he's a big baby, I guess.
All right,
Yeah.
He's ready.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kourtney, where did you grow up? Where are you from? Tell us about yourself.
I'm here from Stanwood. I grew up. I haven't really spent much time at all outside of Stanwood. Like, I spent a summer in Alaska, but that's about it.
All right. And so born and raised right around here. And really the reason we're all excited to talk to you is you are an accomplished, maybe you would argue with that, long range shooter, and you work for a precision, what do we call it, custom barrel maker?
Yeah. We make precision long range barrels for a number of different types of rifles, but mostly bolt action stuff. We don't do ARs or anything like that. But
can we say the name of the company, or is that?
Of course.
Okay. So and you go ahead.
It's Benchmark Barrels. Yeah,
okay.
We're located right in Arlington.
And what is your role at Benchmark?
I'm the sales director, so pretty much if you call there, I'm who will answer the phone.
We're getting you on the phone.
Yeah, on emails and whatever else.
Okay, so go back now. Growing up, Stanwood, how'd you get into long distance shooting?
Well, it didn't start with long distance shooting at all. Like, my dad just raised us outdoors, hunting, fishing, doing whatever, and it was my dad. So he actually built, him and my neighbor, who was like family, they built one of the machines at Benchmark Barrels. And so they became, good friends with the owners and different things like that. And with that, my dad started long distance shooting. So he, just taught that to me just like everything else. And so I've been in the firearms industry I was counting on the way here. I can't believe it's 12 years. I was still in high school, actually, when I started working at the gun counter at Wholesale Sports, which was like previously Sportsman's Warehouse. I couldn't even sign any pistol transfers because I wasn't 21. I was 18, and so that was a full experience. But, it just kind of went from retail sales into, working at the custom barrel shop. And, then it's really just became passion, long range hunting and shooting and all that.
Okay. Is that how you met your husband as well?
I met him when I worked at Wholesale Sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been together for 10 years.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. And does he do the long range shooting and hunting with you?
He shot a match. He's not big into competing, but he loves hunting. So he does a lot long range hunting.
But he's we're the same way. You probably wouldn't get any of us to a competition, but we love shooting.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Okay.
He loves coyote hunting. That's his number one passion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's his favorite.
Where's he go for that? Mostly Eastern Washington, or
if we have time, but mostly here.
Okay.
We have a lot of private farms and different places that we have access to.
There's a dumpster behind the Wendy's. That's pretty hot on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Say when they clean out the fryer.
Yeah.
Greasy.
Oh, man. All right, so was Benchmark already there, or have you been with Benchmark from the beginning?
Oh, no, they've been around for 20 years. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so I'm
Okay.
new in their lifespan. 7 years I've been there.
what was the tool that your dad made a machine? You said in the garage or something, or what your?
Well, no, so my dad's a machinist by trade, so he's a millwright. He builds all sorts of stuff. So they built a barrel drill. a custom barrel drill.
Okay.
I think he might have done one of the reamers as well, but the barrel drill is kind of like the big thing that he did.
Okay, so
is the tooling considered secret, or is that like a proprietary type deal? Because I've always wondered a barrel's pretty narrow, and to run a drill bit through 22 inches of metal that's only, I don't know, an inch in diameter without breaking it is kind of fascinating to me how they do that.
Yeah, I don't actually know how they do the drilling and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, we have, of course, I've go over there and I've seen the machines run and stuff, but I've never run them. I don't know what the pressures or the speeds or feeds or anything that they run looks like for that. But I mean, some of the barrels that we drill are upwards to 40 inches and 3/4 or an inch and 3/4 in diameter, 2 inches sometimes. So typically they're not that small. Like 1 inch is a pretty small diameter for us to drill out. It starts at, solid bar stock and then goes down from there.
Okay. And then I also saw, I was kind of cruising the website. Obviously they do make carbon fiber barrels, which are crazy light. Do they have the ovens to bake the barrel right there, or is that something that's outsourced?
So we do the carbon fiber barrels in-house.
Really?
And
Okay.
that's our newest product.
Yeah.
So we got CNC cut rifling as one of the processes that we offer a couple 3 years ago. And with that, we knew like kind of the next step forward was to offer carbon fiber barrels. And that's just been a huge game changer for us. I mean, that's where the market's going. Everybody wants a carbon fiber barrel.
God damn.
they're so cool.
So
Expensive.
Inexpensive, yeah.
I finally held a gun the other day that it had a carbon fiber barrel on it, and first of all, you notice just the weight difference. But are there other aspects to having carbon fiber, like performance for accuracy? Or does it have effects like the longer you shoot it and it heats up your barrel, or it doesn't heat up because heat transfer is different with carbon fiber?
Right.
I'm interested in carbon fiber because, like you're saying, it is kind of the craze.
Yeah. Well, everybody is. Carbon fiber's biggest thing is the weight. Of course, there's this aesthetics behind it as well. It looks really nice.
Is the actual, like, the riflings where the bullet is making contact with the bullet made of carbon fiber, or is it a steel core?
No, it has to be steel on the inside. Yeah, so the carbon fiber is just a wrap over the top of the steel barrel. The drawback against carbon fiber is the resin holds heat. And so we use a low resin process to prevent, a bunch of heat building up inside of your barrel between the carbon fiber and the steel portion, because the heat's going to come out of the steel and it's just going to sit in there. Yeah, you could put a thermometer on the outside and it's going to say, oh, yeah, it's not hot, but that's because it's not coming out. So we use a low resin process that's going to prevent the heat from being stuck in there. Carbon fiber, it's not going to like burn out any quicker than a regular barrel. There's less steel there, the more steel, the better. So you're kind of like overcoming the amount of steel that's been removed and trying to replace it with carbon fiber. So it's not a direct replacement of a steel barrel of the same size.
Oh, so is a steel barrel more accurate?
A big steel barrel is going to be more accurate than a carbon fiber barrel, absolutely.
Is that because of like after one shot, or is it like one shot it won't make a difference, but like in a competition when you're competing and like repeating shots, is that where it's going to make the difference? Or so for a hunting aspect, it's like go carbon.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, carbon fiber, or you could go with a lightweight, steel barrel that's fluted and all that, that's going to get you pretty close in weight. But yeah, if you took a steel barrel of the same diameter as the carbon fiber barrel's outer diameter, you're going to get better results with the steel barrel. It just, kind of is what it is. But the carbon fiber looks good, has the weight loss proponent, so that's like the big selling points on carbon fiber.
Is there certain manufacturers that you guys deal with mostly? Like I was looking on your website earlier, and it had like a SIG, like I think it was SIG.
Oh, so we made the drop-in barrels for the SSG 3000. We don't have any barrels that we provide.
Is that a Terminator or right? What are we talking about?
It's just this bolt-action rifle. SIG doesn't import them anymore, so you can only buy them on the used market. But they're a really cool barrel.
It's like a precision rifle.
Yeah.
I didn't know SIG was in that market. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's an older rifle. Yeah, the Sauer 202 is along the same variety of that as well.
Okay.
So is that just super popular, and that's why you guys provide that, or is there?
I wouldn't say it's super popular. None of you guys in this room have heard of it, so it's not super popular. But It has a following. It has a cult following. It has the ability to have a drop-in barrels, which is hard to find. You know, just being able to take a barrel home and not have to have any special tools, but a couple Allen wrenches to put a barrel in is pretty rare.
Okay.
So that's why that's cool. But yeah, so as far as like manufacturers that we work with, most of our stuff goes to custom gunsmiths. So we have, you know, a long list of custom gunsmiths that order our barrels. And then we have, you know, a major reseller, Red Hawk Rifles. They have our barrels on the shelf. And then a lot of gunsmiths or, you know, just regular retail buyers will buy from them and then take them to a gunsmith.
What kind of setup would you be running then? Like in your, because I was trying to find out more about you guys, and I saw that there's like a league, a rifle league. What's the, like a long range rifle league?
PRS or NRL? Are they both? Am I right on both accounts?
Yeah, you're on both accounts. Yep. So those are just like the two main competition varieties. So, I mean, like I would run a completely different gun for hunting than I would for precision rifle. So my precision rifle's got a heavy, I wouldn't say it's like a perfectly straight bull barrel, but it's a straight taper. It's called an MTU. Okay. I run that at like 24 inches for a 6mm Creedmoor. I run a suppressor on it if I can in the state, you know, that I'm shooting in, but I don't do much out of state anyways. Yeah. And then I run it in a chassis. And so I use the KRG Bravo chassis. I've had it shortened.
What is the this is something I recently learned, but for all the people who don't know what you're talking about, what is a chassis and what is the difference?
You know, I'm not very good at explaining this. So a stock is like it's fiberglass or carbon fiber, typically lighter weight, but you can get heavy fills in the stock, and they're made in a mold. You can get adjustable cheek pieces and stuff, but the chassis are a lot better for, you know, accessorizing. You can put Arca rails on the front, and then typically they'll have like a better drop-in than like a stock would, so you can just kind of mount gun in there and not have to bed it.
The way I understand it is that a stock is more the traditional look of what we all expect a rifle to look like. Yeah. And when you guys see these crazy precision rifles, it almost look like the buttstock is skeletonized because it has an adjustable comb and an adjustable, you know, length of pull and whatnot. That's what she's talking about with a chassis, where it's a little more, looks a little bit more like industrial machinery.
Yeah, that's a good explanation of it, I'd say.
Okay, and so that is a competition rifle for you versus, and then what's a hunting rifle?
So for the hunting rifle...
I'm sorry, real quick. What does it weigh? Would you say is a competition rifle generally going to run heavier?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's probably about 17 pounds with a loaded mag. Yeah, it's heavy. But some of these guys are shooting like 20-plus pound rifles, so that's not even that heavy.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
And that's with optics and everything.
Yep,
just a full
optics,
build.
loaded mag, yep.
But that's what you want, right?
Yeah, weight's your friend.
Okay, yeah. I have a buddy that would shoot competitions, and he was saying like it got to the point where you're wrestling with setting up your gun and everything else more than actually shooting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's kind of the, you know, they have all these devices to hold your gun, and you know, it's not
people come with 2 tripods.
Yeah, man, That's actually what turns me off about the competition part of it, is that I want some sort of real world
human input.
Yeah, just like if it's not a gun I can take into the mountains hunting or survival type situation, then I don't really want to train with it because it becomes impractical to me, other than for putting it on a tripod for a competition.
So there's 2, like I would say, like leagues essentially that we would be good for you for that. So the NRL Hunter League, you would use a lighter rifle. They limit you on the tools that you can bring to the line. Whereas if you're just like shooting PRS Open or NRL Open or whatever, you can take whatever. And people add weights to their guns, different things like that. It's crazy. So if you shoot the NRL Hunter, you are taking a light gun, less stuff, and then it's more of a hunting type scenario when you're, you know, actually shooting. A lot of it will be blind stages. So you come to the firing line, you don't know the distance, you don't know where the targets are, and they give you a description. You have to range under time, so it puts a lot more stress into it. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot more real world.
So I've been following the NRL Hunter Instagram account, and it makes me think of you two, because I'm like, God damn, this is something the 3 of us need to learn to do, because I know you two would get into it as well. But it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Does Benchmark? I was again researching this stuff, and I saw a video, and you guys like provide rifles for something, or
No, so we're not involved in that. I think my barrels might have been on that rifle donor setup, but that's solely with the National Rifle League, the NRL. Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah. So the other league that is really great that we're tied in well with is the Rifleman's Team Challenge. So you actually get to shoot as a team. I think the NRL Hunter has a team set up as well, but this is like kind of where a lot of the match shooting came from was the Rifleman's Team Challenge. And so a lot of it's in Washington. They have some in Montana, and I think they have an Oregon and maybe an Idaho match too, but it's mostly in Washington, Montana. And really, really great people. If you want to go try out a match and shoot a long range match, that number one would be my top match to go to. They actually have one coming up next month, the Karstetter
In the state?
Memorial. Yeah, it's in Wilbur.
Oh, I grew up right there.
Oh, do you really?
Well, I grew up in Omak, so
okay.
yeah, not far from there.
Yeah.
what kind of setup would you need to do that? Like, is there a list of like, this is what you need if you want to get into it?
Yeah, so some people go with their factory hunting rifles.
Yeah, I'd say
it's just more challenging.
Oh, wow.
I think, honestly, well, first of all, we used to, in mountain bike racing, we used to have a saying, run what you brung, meaning don't get too wrapped up in the equipment. Just worry about maximizing the equipment you have. And I think these competitions would be a great way to get really familiar with whatever rifle you're actually going to take hunting. What better way to get familiar with it than to go do one of these competitions with it? Not worry about placing first, second, third. Worry about learning your equipment. And it's a great way to kind of force you to get familiar with your equipment in all these different scenarios and situations. And I think there's just unbelievable value there for training.
What's the price point of like entering these competitions and stuff like that?
I think it's a couple $100 for entry fees typically.
We should do one of the teams.
Oh, 100%.
And just go and like give it a go.
That would be awesome.
Can you drink chiladas while you're on the firing line, or is that frowned on?
Probably after the day is over.
What's the distance you're normally shooting?
Sometimes they'll have like a quick little 100 yards, but typically you're like 400 to 1200.
Jesus. Yeah.
We need some work.
Yeah,
we need some training.
But those are the best guys.
That's
to go
what Courtney's here for.
Yeah.
One of these days. Yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to your son in 15 years and explain to him. Listen, you screwed up my plans for learning long range shooting, but
delayed it a little bit.
Exactly. We'll have to wait a year or two.
Always trying to hurry up and get out, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So what does the top of this food chain look like in the competition series? Like, what does it get you, like, sponsors?
I was just going to say, is this full of, like, factory-sponsored shooters, or is it more of, like, good old boys who like to shoot long range?
That's a hard question. A lot of the good shooters, they work really hard to, get good sponsors on board for them. But that's something that they have to go out and they have to ask for. There's not really anybody, there's probably a couple people that'll have like factory rifles, but pretty much everybody has custom rifles. So they have a gunsmith sponsor, they have a barrel sponsor, an action sponsor, stock sponsor, ammunition if they shoot, ammunition, or if they do reloading, they'll have a brass. It's a lot of work for those guys to do that.
And is this enough to make a living off of just where they can just shoot, or most have a normal 9 to 5 and they're extreme hobbyists kind of people?
Yeah, they're extreme hobbyists. Okay. There's, the Armageddon gear really has, what's their match
That's a
called?
great name.
Armageddon gear. Oh, yeah, they make some good stuff, but they have a match. I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now, but they're really trying to take it to a pro league where there's a big paychecks for that match. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
So is there like a Vegas? Like, is there a national? I mean,
Yeah.
for darts. I mean, they're like, they're like,
Curling made it to the Olympics. God damn it.
yeah. So, I mean, is there like a national level shoot, and then beyond that, a world where they kind of recognize these are the best, or is that where the Olympics starts to come in with shooting?
Yeah.
Isn't that really an Olympic
That's
sport?
true, but it's 22 rifles, though, isn't it, in the Olympics?
Yeah.
I have
It's
no.
like
Is that really?
I think it's an indoor,
Yeah, it's the
like a
greatest caliber
25
ever made.
yard. That's true. Yeah, you're
Here's a
not lying.
BB gun. Go win America a gold. 22s, really?
Yeah. Yeah, no, so there is national level matches. So like the PRS, you have to shoot and qualify. Same thing for the National Rifle League. So once you have won or placed well enough in, I think you have to shoot 3 matches to be able to have enough points to be able to qualify. And I think they take an average of your 3 best matches. And then that will put you into the range where you can go to one of those national level matches. And I think they have them at different places every year. So NRL has that, PRS has that, and then Rifleman's Team Challenge has that too, but it's more of like anybody can go, and this is the, season finale essentially. And it's, it's again kind of more local Washington.
Okay.
We got to do
Montana.
it.
I was
We
just going
got
to
to do
say,
it.
the Rifleman Team Challenge sounds
Yes.
like right up our alley.
Highly
if-
recommend.
So if you win, do you get like $1,000 or something, or
You get a free chilada.
yeah, and 1,000 rounds? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the PRS and the NRL have pretty big payouts. I'm not sure exactly what they're running for those these days. I've kind of lost track of that. But, there will be sometimes a rifle on the line that you can win as well.
Nice.
But, yeah, there's checks and, and if you don't place in the top, they'll do, a lot of places will do, from highest scoring to lowest scoring. And then some places will just draw names. And so you still have a chance at getting something. There's a lot of prizes on the table at these things.
Is it a fun community, like a good community?
Absolutely.
Is it? Okay.
And I would say that's why I keep pushing you guys in this direction, but the Rifleman's Team Challenge is the best.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That can make or break the weekend if people are like, again, going back to mountain bike racing, what I found is that like downhill races, pretty rowdy group and pretty fun to be around. And it's like party all night. And then everybody's so freaking hungover, you can barely do your race run the next day. But then everybody's like kind of, again, party at the finish line, everybody's hanging out. But then as you get more towards the endurance type racing, where people become more serious athletes, it becomes more of like a dickhead.
Cutthroat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just
Ricky Bobby.
no, not
situation.
even that. Like more like the shaved legs and strict vegan diets and cardio like road riding programs and a lot of like sort of uptight kind of just not fun to hang out with type people.
Yeah.
So that can make a difference in whether or not you stick around in the sport or not, is whether or not it's a fun group of people to hang around.
Yeah. You get that in every sport that you play, But I would say that you get that a little bit less in the Rifleman's Team Challenge. It's a lot of fun to go shoot one of those matches.
Awesome. What's the closest venue to here?
Probably Wilbur. Okay. So, and these are all pretty much set up on people's private ground. Where they go in and they spend a whole bunch of time setting targets and getting course of fire set up, and then take it all down.
Wow. Okay, so they're just doing it because they, like Mike said, extreme hobbyists.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome.
There are some places they'll go that are ranges. I think they have a match at Rock Lake Rifle Range, which is in Spokane, but everything's on the other side of the mountains.
Yeah.
We don't get that.
All the good stuff. So
Everything. Yep. People.
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, at some point we're gonna have to move the Enlightened Neanderthals to Cleolum or something, or even Cleolum's becoming like a suburb of Issaquah. Yeah,
A little snooty.
We'll have to keep going further.
Yeah.
Moses Lake or something. Oh man.
What?
Go ahead.
Getting into the weeds of like your gear and everything that you do. What is, because again, I believe the 22 is the best caliber ever created.
The 1022 is the greatest rifle firearm ever designed.
Yes, without question.
We all know this.
That's why it's in the Olympics.
That's right.
Makes sense. What kind of caliber are you shooting? What kind of, get specific in your gear, the barrel twist, all the craziness. And what also is like the ones that you could go and grab and go, oh, okay, this would make sense.
Yeah. So on my specific rifle, I shoot a 6mm Creedmoor. I was shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor, but it was recommended a 6mm. It has a little bit less recoil on it. You're shooting a smaller bullet.
Is it higher velocity too?
Yeah.
So it's flatter, I would assume.
Yeah, downside of it is a little bit more wind issues. And then some of the spotters have a hard time spotting long distance, those 1,000-yard
See the
shots and
trace?
stuff. Yeah.
It's almost more fun to be a spotter and watch trace than it is to be the shooter.
And it's a talent to be able to see it and, call it properly.
It takes a minute to find it or to understand what it is. But then I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, holy shit, did you guys, hang on.
You can see the bullet.
Did you guys
go through
just
the
fucking
air.
see this shit? Yeah. And then at that point, it's like, all right, I just want to spot now. You guys go ahead and shoot.
Wait, what is it? You're not talking about tracers.
No,
No.
spotting trace. Kourtney, you can explain it better than I can.
So when you spot a shot long range and you're standing behind the shooter, you can see the bullet go through the air.
Like that distortion.
It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
it helps out a lot to have it. Yeah, the chemtrails.
It's the
Yep.
you follow
Are
those.
you able to see it with your naked eye?
Yeah, absolutely.
dang,
Yeah.
okay.
You don't have to have a
I've
spotting
only
scope.
ever saw it through a scope.
Yeah, you can kind of see it with your eye. You can video it and
Well,
and
it's
see
probably
it as well.
easier to see it in longer distance shots,
Yes,
right?
and it really helps if the humidity is high. It seems like, but you're literally seeing
Yeah,
the
it makes-
distortion in the air around the projectile, and it looks like some little weird matrix shit. And you see
Yeah.
the bullet like.
Now, is that from it going hypersonic, breaking the sound barrier? Is that
It must be, yeah.
it's clapping the atmosphere
I
around
think you're
it?
right. Yeah, yeah. And,
Okay.
but it's the coolest. But you see it arch up and then down, and then either
Yeah,
hit the
yeah.
target and that's where you get those calls. Where
Yeah,
you're like,
you see like on Instagram videos, a guy shooting elk from, same thing, 1,000 yards
Yeah.
away, and you see this little haze go and just
Yep.
pop them in the side.
Yep.
And
Paper trail.
it's cool as shit when you first get in over someone's shoulder on the scope and see that. It's like, yes.
Yeah, you can you can spot it when you're off a little bit, but the most accurate place to spot shots is from behind.
All right, that's cool. I didn't know you could do it with the naked eye, and I've every once in a while when the sun is just right out at our range, I'll be able to see people's 9mm when they're shooting on with the naked eye because it's a slower velocity, right? And you can actually you'll see a glint of the sun, or as it passes from shadow to light and whatnot. But anyway, all right,
Okay, eagle eye. Great.
So I shoot a 7.5 twist, and I'm shooting 105 grain bullets. I built a rifle for my husband in the same caliber, 6mm Creedmoor, and we did a 1-in-8 for him, and that also shoots the 105s really nicely.
Is he running a longer barrel then, or?
He actually is using a shorter barrel. It's really weird. He uses my same load and my same drop charts, and we've verified it at range, and it works. It's
what are the
an
barrel
anomaly.
lengths? What are the two lengths?
So he has a 22, I believe, on his. Also shooting a can, and then I have a 24 on mine.
Okay.
So it's kind of a weird thing, but yeah. So I shoot a 1-in-7 twist, 24-inch barrel, MTU profile, 6mm Creedmoor, and I'm just running mine on a Remington 700 action, which is just fine. It's been blueprinted. It's got a heavy recoil lug.
What does blueprinted mean?
So blueprinted is we go in and we machine the threads so they're nice and concentric, and then square the face of the receiver, square the face of the bolt, and lap the lugs on the bolt as well. So everything's nice and straight and fit together.
Got it.
Okay. Is this done at a not at Benchmark, or is it done at Benchmark?
Yeah, we do a little bit of that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're running a 6mm Creedmoor. What are like the new? Because I've saw like the 7. Is it the 7mm PRC that just came out? And they have a 6.5 PRC? And is that? Do you see like a prevalence of that, or like do you see a lot of people going a smaller, lighter bullet?
For match shooting, going with a standard cartridge, so that means like a standard bolt face, not Magnum or anything like that, is going to be just fine. You're able to hit all those targets. Your spotters are able to tell, and you're not just shooting out your barrels like crazy. If you're going with a Magnum, like the 6.5 PRC, nothing against that. I think it's fantastic for hunting. I would personally never take it to a match. It's got more recoil, and it's going to burn out your barrels faster. So definitely a great hunting cartridge, though.
Okay. Are you hand loading then?
Yeah.
Okay, what would be because if we were to get into this, I don't think we're gonna get into the weeds of like, oh, let's get a reloading station set up and do all that, but just
A lot of
like
work.
Yeah, exactly. So if we were gonna do it, would we?
That's what Jordan says, but instead of remodeling his kitchen, he'll turn that shit into a reloading station. Chandra will be pissed. She'll be like, "You said we could have an oven."
Yeah, we're making bullets.
Looked like a North Vietnamese camp, 1968, just a factory press.
Yeah, we have a little table we
Train his-
squat around.
Train his dogs to pull the handle on the reloading press.
What caliber would you recommend that you can just buy something off the shelf to get out there? Because we were talking about rifles because the gun laws here are changing. And it's like they're going to force us to start buying bolt action. What caliber would you recommend us get that we could get boxes of from Cabela's.
Sportsman's Guide.
Yeah, and then
Sketched arms.
Sketched arms. Yeah, there you go. Sketched. Hey, what's up, guys? And then actually go out and compete and also hunt with.
I would say 6.5 Creedmoor. It's very readily available. It's got almost twice as long of a barrel life as the 6mm Creedmoor does, which you can also get off the shelf ammo for. But there's a good variety of hunting and match bullets and ammo available for that. So that's what I would do is a 6.5 Creedmoor, absolutely.
But you don't see anybody that like really competes and like wins the stuff with factory.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have to buy good match ammo. So that's the thing. We used to buy a lot of prime ammo, and I've seen people, do really, really well with prime ammo. The guys that are, winning, though, the reason that they could probably win with factory ammo, no problem. They just shoot so much that it's cheaper for them to reload.
Okay.
That's why, yeah. And then some of them are shooting, cartridges that aren't off the shelf, like Dashers and BRs and GTs and stuff. So it's not like there's ammo that you could just go pick up. But the Creedmoor is fantastic. Anytime I talk to somebody who's like wanting to get into long range shooting, I say the 6.5 Creedmoor is awesome. Yeah, buy that.
Okay.
It's not overrated like everybody
How
thinks.
does that compare to 308? Because everybody has a 308 in their closet.
308's great too. And like a lot of these leagues have 308 classes. So you're competing against other people shooting 308s, which is nice because the 308 recoils a lot more, keeps you a lot more honest behind your gun. You have to be doing your job to get good hits and, be able to compete with the guys shooting these lightweight 6mm and stuff that don't recoil at all.
Got it.
So a 308, the projectile, the actual, when I say bullet, I mean
The actual bullet.
Yeah, you're an
Not the
actual,
ammo.
you're a ballistics person, so I know my terms are wrong, but the projectile that comes out, a 308, that's bigger than a 6.5 Creedmoor, right?
Yeah, so 308 and the 6.5 is .264. So it's a considerable amount bigger.
So, so I've kind of noticed because 6.5, like as of 4 or 5 years ago, I never knew it really existed.
It
and then it
exploded,
had just exploded. And is it, so with like these long distance and precision shooters, you're seeing more smaller calibers, like a 7mm rifle, isn't it pretty much the projectile once again is like 22 bullet in sizing. It just has an atomic bomb of powder behind it, right?
308 is 7.62 millimeters, right? So it's a NATO round, right? 7.62 by 51 is a 308, and 7.62 by 54 is a 30-06. So a 30 caliber bullet is equivalent to 7.62 millimeters. So you can say that a 7mm Magnum is probably also a 30 caliber bullet. It's just we're talking about the length and size of the casing.
Okay.
So,
Is my understanding.
Boat tail.
Hang on, if Kourtney's got better information, because she's like, all right, so
Pump the brake.
The 7mm is .284 in diameter.
See, I told you,
so
Mike.
it is smaller. It requires a different bore and all that stuff. So, that is an interesting thing when you talk about millimeters, though, because it is close, But, it's .284 in diameter, so it's smaller than the 308, bigger than the 6.5. So the 6.5 has blown up, but before the 6.5 Creedmoor and stuff became popular, the 260 was like the thing to have. So that's just a 308 neck down to a 6.5 or 264 caliber.
So it doesn't have anything to do with as machining gets better in precision, they're going towards a smaller projectile that they control better?
I think that people are just learning more about ballistics. And what they can do. You've got these BRs. They have little tiny cases, and they're shooting 115 grain 6mm bullets, and they are competing with longer cases. That have more powder ability and stuff just because they're more efficient. So I don't know. I don't study ballistics that much. It's just way over my head. I'm not that smart.
So you'd say get a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah.
Right? And then
is
obviously
that built? Can you build a 6.5 onto an AR-10 lower? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 308 and 6.5, those are the kind of the
interchangeable
the two that
magazines.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that I just built one of those, but that's not going to compete, right?
You're
going to take an AR and actually be able to compete with bolt action guys, right?
You just run into problems. with anything that's like moving like automatically like that, it just runs into problems. I see people run into problems all the time with bolt rifles. I mean,
So you're saying Inslee's right.
No. You do whatever you want to do. But the bolt rifles run easier. So like I had a Ruger precision rifle. I was shooting at a few matches and stuff, and eventually I ended up having problems. I had to take the bolt completely apart. I lost an extractor. I had all these problems. So the less moving parts that you have, the easier it's going to be, and you can be super fast with the bolt action. I don't care what anybody else says.
What's the amount of rounds you guys are shooting in competition? Just kind of
in a 2-day match, I think they say like 250 rounds.
okay.
Holy shit! Out of a bolt gun, that is a lot.
That's a lot of ammo.
God damn.
Yeah, you're shooting like 12 rounds.
I was
per
when you were
stage.
talking about like the heavy recoil versus the lighter recoil. I was thinking maybe like 25 rounds. Like who cares? All right, yeah, I understand.
Well, it's not necessarily about felt
Yeah.
recoil. It's about controlling the rifle.
Yeah.
And you see these guys, like they literally can step back and not be touching their rifle at all and pull the trigger and their gun doesn't move. And then you hear it ting the steel downrange.
That's the kind of shooting that turns me off, because at that point you're just dialing in
likes to feel
like a
it.
machine.
Like bench rest stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I want to be like part of the equation, because that requires human skill. And if I'm not putting any skill and
Not to say
technique
you
into
guys
it,
aren't skillful.
Right.
There's skill in setting up your gear.
your CNC machine to then
Yeah. Those guys do like some precision reloading. The bench rest guys, it's
Yeah,
way
counting-
above my head. It's insane.
counting pellets. And
Yeah, and then turning the necks and bullet concentricity, all this stuff. It's insane.
It's like, guys tuning arrows and they get really into the weeds with, floating, finding spines of, your
You're like
arrows
getting into
and
the
everything else.
science.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the craziness. I could see with bullets it would be even crazier,
It's nuts just listening to you because, like,
she's talking so far above our heads.
yeah, like
We're just trying to keep up with the conversation.
I'm pretty
Like,
decent.
yeah.
I'm pretty decent at pulling a trigger finger, and that's about my extent of guns. I know a basic amount because of hunting, but it's like,
Listen, I don't want to brag, but I can hit 50-yard shots with a 10-22.
but it's like you have just this complete language you speak. Is this something you learned just from getting into competition shooting? Or like you said, you grew up outdoors. Is this something like you've always been long distance hunting or something
Oh,
with
goodness.
your family? Or how'd this start?
No, I mean, I don't think I like killed anything past 100 yards, like growing up or anything like that. Like we did not long distance hunt or shoot or anything. Long distance has really grown in the last probably 20
it's
years
gotten
or
huge,
something.
yeah.
It's gotten crazy. And in these last 10 years, it's really compounded and just gotten crazy. I mean, with the optics technology, your rangefinder technology and stuff has grown. But I didn't start long range until I was outside of high school. So it's this, when I started working for Benchmark Barrels, my love for that really just grew.
How did you learn? Were you working at Benchmark when you started?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just,
they taught me everything I know.
Because that would be their passion, so they would just take you with them.
Yep, absolutely. They've been doing it, like the owners and stuff for a very long time, and they taught me everything that they know. Actually, they haven't taught me everything that they know. Everything I know, I got from them. But yeah,
Yeah. So a setup. Could I go and get? I want a 6.5 Creedmoor. Does it brand matter much for chassis or anything like that? Or is there like an off-the-shelf recommendation you would make? Because, obviously Benchmark doesn't make a rifle. They make barrels. So besides that, is there like...
If you were going to put together yourself a rifle out of not unlimited budget, but like where you have to pay attention to your budget a little bit, what are you buying other than the barrel?
well, do you have a rifle already you want to donate?
I have a Remington 700 in
That's
308.
perfect. So that's kind of like my first question when I have a customer approach me about this is like, do you have a rifle that you're willing to throw away everything except for the action and the bolt? Okay, yes, that's going to save you $1,000 minimum. because Action started about $1,000. American Rifle Company, they're here in Mukilteo or Kent, one of the two, I can't ever remember. But they have a new Action that's like $900. So that's probably the starting point for Action. So you save yourself a lot of money by donating a rifle. A Remington 700 is a really great option, or a Tikka is a really great option as well.
T3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Smoothest bullets. They're insane. So the Remington and Tikka are great. You're going to have the most availability for parts. Yeah, you could use a Winchester or a number of different things, but you limit yourself on magazines and stock options as well. So then if I was keeping price point in mind, I'd go with that KRG Bravo chassis. That's actually what I shoot. They're less than $500 and they're fantastic. They're polymer and they accept all of KRG's accessories. So you can put the rails and the weight kits and the adjustable butt stock and all that. It comes with adjustable cheek piece on it. So a great chassis for a low price. Of course, one of our barrels, naturally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, getting it chambered by a quality gunsmith, which, we could recommend a number of different ones, but I don't want to call anybody out because I don't want to leave anybody out. Don't want to hurt any feelings. That's the basis of it. The chassis is really cool because the bottom metal is built into it. So if you went with a stock, you could go with a stock. There's, a lot of great stock options, but they're going to be typically more expensive. And then you also have to buy your magazine setup that goes into it, which is called your bottom metal. Okay. And then, get magazines for that. So now all you have to get is a magazine that goes in it, which, Accuracy International 308 magazines will work great for the 6.5 Creedmoor. And then, so now you have a full rifle. And then you just need optics to go on top, which, you guys are hooked up with Vortex. So.
Yeah, so we're connected with Vortex. Do you have a favorite company? Or is it like good glass is good glass?
Good glass is good glass, absolutely.
All right, and then second question. So when I look through, Vortex has their Strike Eagle, which is their kind of budget line, and then they've got Viper in the middle, and then Razor is their top end. When I look through, Greg has a Razor that they sent out, and I have, how come they sent me a Strike Eagle?
Comparison.
Yeah. But I can't tell the difference when I'm looking through the two of them.
That's why.
Can you tell the difference when you're looking through a cheap optic versus some high end Zeiss or something like that?
Yes, I can. Yeah, absolutely.
Apparent.
It's the fine details at distance that really make the difference.
So when it's really zoomed in compared to zoomed out, that's when you start to notice your.
Yeah,
that's probably.
And it doesn't even necessarily. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be zoomed in. You could be zoomed out, but still, looking further away, and you'll just see if you look at a obviously the optic not on a gun, a side of a house or something, you can really see all of the detail in the wood and grain and different things like that with a good optic. If you had your choice of those three options, the Razor being the number one.
Yeah, well, apparently they don't value me as much.
But the Strike Eagle will do it for you, absolutely.
Well, so my follow-up to that then is, do you think it affects your hit percentage? Does being able to see those fine details lead to a better placement of your shot?
It could, absolutely. If you're having a hard time seeing your target, it's also going to help with you seeing where you're hitting. So if you're able to spot your shots and able to, make up for that, you're like, okay, I'm off right edge. I can make this adjustment and go for it. Okay. You might not be able to see that little splash, or you might not, it could help with spotting targets in general. If it's not super bright or clear glass, you could have challenge if they put a target in the middle of these bushes and it's really hard to see. You might not be able to see it, that goes for animals too. Obviously, they camouflage naturally.
Yeah.
And with that, optics in mind and stuff, and as you're looking at distance to make your shots, with wind and all of that stuff, are you using your glass to see particles floating, and as you're zooming out, can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely do that. So, you're looking at mirage, when it's hot out, you can see mirage moving around. And so you kind of use your parallax adjustment sometimes to to dial in and out. Maybe you're not seeing everything in focus, but you're able to see this little wave, go across that mirage, and you're looking at trees, at your distance in between where your target is and stuff, and you're calculating all of that just by looking through your scope and seeing that. You see a lot of people at matches, they'll take their kestrels or their wind meters and stuff, and they're flinging them around by where they're at, looking at the wind and stuff. It's like, that doesn't, it tells you what the wind is where you're at, but that doesn't mean that's not what it's doing over there. There could be a crosswind or an updraft. Absolutely. So you have to look and take all of that into consideration. Yeah.
And then you just pull the trigger and hope it hits, or what's the, are you looking at a certain, say you're shooting across a canyon and you got wind coming down the canyon. It's, what is it, afternoon, and the wind's starting to drop down. It's getting colder. Are you looking at what the wind's doing on the surface of where the target is and where you're at versus the canyon? Like, how's that all?
Yeah,
which one do you choose to use? Because it can be blowing. I've been in spots where wind's going one way and halfway it's going the other way. Like, how do you make those adjustments?
Well, if I was looking at it and it, looked pretty heavy wind in each direction, I'd probably just center up.
Okay.
But I look at it, you just, every scenario requires a different estimate, and wind reading is a skill that is developed over time of just continuing shooting and testing it out, because there's really no other way to do it, because you're guessing what's between you. You kind of see how hard the grass is bent over, the trees are leaning, and things like that will give you a good idea, but you're still guessing. But at some point, it becomes a more of a educated guess, because you've just done it so many times, you have a good understanding of that.
And that's where like that 6.5 Creedmoor versus like a 300 Win Mag, the weight of the bullet starts playing a bigger and bigger portion there.
Yeah, like a 300, you're going to be shooting probably 180 grain bullet.
Yeah.
It's a lot heavier bullet. It's going to be less pushed by the wind, so it's going to have less of an effect on it than the 6.5 Creedmoor or, smaller calibers.
Okay. Yeah. But those are going to shoot out your barrel faster, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to shoot a Magnum in competition. Unless like you're, taking a rifle and you're just basically looking at it as a training experience for hunting.
Yeah.
Then go for it. But if you were wanting to shoot a bunch of matches, I wouldn't.
I would
go
not
with that.
want to shoot 250 rounds out of a 300 Win Mag.
You'd be tired.
When my granddad gave me his old 30-06 hunting rifle, and I think I put 20 rounds through it to zero it, and it has no rubber butt pad, nothing on it. And, oh, man, my arm was hanging by the time I walked back to the house. And the next day it was all purple and yellow, blood and stuff draining down it.
The amount of people walking onto the Kenmore gun range with just like dead arms is staggering, I bet.
Muzzle brakes help a lot, and we do those. So,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys get into muzzle devices and all that as well.
Yeah. The muzzle brakes make a huge difference. Anybody who's not shooting a suppressor, match shooting, is shooting a muzzle brake. And I say if you're hunting and you're not shooting a muzzle brake, you probably should be. Yes. Like it makes the gun move a lot less. It helps, with flinch development, make that go away. You don't want any flinch.
Yep.
Muzzle brakes are great.
So what's it like shooting a suppressor versus a muzzle brake then?
It's quieter,
Does it reduce recoil or increase it? Because it puts more gas. Well, no, because
It
a
does
bolt's not a
reduce
gas gun.
Yeah.
It reduces recoil.
It does reduce recoil, not as significantly as a muzzle brake does, though. Muzzle brakes definitely do a better job. That's what they're designed for.
Yes.
Suppressors being quieter, but muzzle brakes you don't want to use without your protection because they're loud. Super loud.
No, I hate when people come out to our range with muzzle brakes on their ARs, because one, and actually for everybody listening at home, a muzzle brake is not a tactical device. It's great for hunting, where you're going to fire one shot and get your kill. You should be, if you know what you're doing. And it's great for competition for the sake of, like Kourtney said, reducing the recoil. But when it comes to a self-defense or tactical application, any rifle with a muzzle brake on it is going to breathe a dragon's breath flame out the front of it, and that gives away your position. It's like turning on a flashlight in the woods at night. And not only is it going to give away your position, but it's going to blind everybody to your right and left who's on your team. And if you're just out at a course like the ones I teach, it's just going to piss off everybody on the firing line, because every time you fire, they're going to be getting punched in the face with your gas blow off that comes out the side of that thing.
Yep.
I have a question. For long distance, are thumb holes a debate or a topic for stocks?
You see them for sale, but nobody uses thumbhole stocks, no. Because it really is not like the proper position to have your hand in like that. You actually want your thumb kind of stacked over your other fingers, on the side versus wrapped around like that, because that can kind of torque it. You want it more straight above your trigger finger. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm like looking at my hand trying to put it into words.
What you're saying is California's got it right.
No.
Sorry.
Jeez.
Okay, just checking.
All right. Well, all right. Now we read you sent us the photo. I sent these guys the photos of that article you wrote for, what was that magazine?
Precision Rifle Shooter.
Okay. So that was an awesome article. And you were talking about kind of the crossover between the matches and hunting, which feeds right into what we're talking about. And have you written any other? You said that was your first magazine article, correct?
Yeah, that was my first article. And then
you're also on, what is it?
Handgun
TV or something?
Handguns and defensive weapons, but it's now going to be just handguns.
And that's continuing on, yeah? Mm-hmm. And where do people find that?
On the Sportsman's Channel.
That's online or on cable TV?
Or sorry, on TV, yeah.
On TV.
And then they have My Outdoor TV app, which you can subscribe to and watch episodes there.
Okay, and what do you guys do on the handguns, and it's just called handguns now?
Yeah, so ever since I've been on it, we were pretty much just doing handgun stuff, but we'll do some flashlight tactics and different things like that. But, previously they've done some shotgun stuff and some AR stuff as well. But so we're just reviewing different handguns and different things like that, talking tactics. We did some fun stuff with airsoft training last season, which was really cool to go through shoot house and run some scenarios like that. So we do a lot of stuff like that.
Are you guys doing that local? Is
No.
Where's that located?
So we film at 3 different locations. We go to Georgia, and we go to Gun Sight in Arizona, and then the Sight Firearms Training Facility in Illinois. The place in Georgia is a private range that we go to.
How do I get
Pendleton.
your life?
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's pretty fun.
Do you like shooting pistols or do you like long distance more?
I like shooting pistols, of course. I mean, I just like shooting guns in general, but I definitely say like my passion lies in hunting, and so long range really plays into that more.
I like shooting long range as well, but there's something just about pistols being so finicky and hard that when I get that perfect shot, it feels so much more rewarding.
Yeah.
Than it does with a rifle at a longer distance.
Yeah.
Just I feel like so much more can happen with a pistol.
Oh, pistols are far more. And this is another thing I see with the training courses is people think that because the pistol is the smaller weapon that it's going to be the easier one to learn on, and that's not true at all. Mm-hmm. You're far better off learning with if get on my soapbox here for a minute, but if people are going to learn to shoot the right way, the progression is you start with a bolt action 22 and you learn to shoot iron sights on your bolt action 22, and this is what I do with my kids. And then when you've got that down, then you can put a scope on it. Yeah. And then you can go to like a 10-22 that's a semi-automatic. And then you can go to something either like a higher caliber bolt gun, or then you can start learning the AR-15 platform. And after you've mastered the AR-15 platform, then we can start talking about pistols, because pistols are far more difficult to shoot and they're far easier to have an accident with. And what I see on the fire, you guys listening to this can't see, but people will, like, when they get a malfunction, the first thing they do is turn it sideways to look at it, and they
Pointing
point
it
it
at everyone.
Exactly. They're pointing it down the line at everybody on the firing line. So in my mind, pistols are the last weapon you should learn to use after you've learned everything else.
All the good gun safety with everything else. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. But that's not the way it goes right now, just because society is in such chaos and people want like a self-defense. Like in their mind, they just want a gun that fits in their purse or in their pocket or whatever for carrying around for self-defense.
With no prior training or not even knowing how to shoot,
terrifying.
really.
It's honestly, and actually I wanted to, because Kourtney's in here and because this latest shooting where this like transvestite dude went and shot, is it a dude or I don't even fucking know. Like
it was born as a woman.
It was?
Yes.
Okay. So transvestite woman went and shot up a school, which is tragic and sad. And it sucks that we can't have gun control talk without like, well, everybody on one side is like, ban everything now. And then the people on the other side are like, fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit. We should never, not acknowledge him or it or whatever it is. And fuck, I don't even know how I'm trying to say this, but it seems like we need to have a little bit more of an intelligent conversation about what guns are, what they're used for, their usefulness in society. And because otherwise we're just going to keep repeating this same cycle over and over again. And is like I think the first aspect that we should be talking about is the gun to blame? Because I would say no, it's mental health is to blame, and nobody wants to talk about that. I don't know where I was going with that.
I shared a post that said that Cain killed Abel with a rock, and David killed Goliath with a rock. It's not the rock, obviously. It's the intentions of the rock user. Yeah. So and that goes with so many different weapons. Yeah. And it's a challenging topic because it's very emotional. Yeah. Obviously none of us don't feel bad.
Killed, right? Like everybody feels bad about this.
Yeah.
That
something needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
So there's something that needs to be done, but taking away any of my guns out of my
doesn't make the world safer.
It will not, because I know
does the opposite.
What my guns are there for. And I know that they are not going to be used in any kind of a harmful way to anybody, typically, right? So taking away my rights is not going to make the world safer. Yeah, it's not going to save any schools. It's not going to save any kids. It's not going to do any of that. If anything, it might, make it danger.
Yeah, it might save people because you're there and you're carrying and you're there you can save their life. You can intervene in, what might be
classic
happening.
Is that young man in, I think it was Wisconsin, when the guy entered the mall to start shooting.
Yeah.
He drew down and ended it, right? And that could have been a far worse incident had there not been a responsible citizen sitting in the food court, right?
Yep, exactly. I'd be glad to have anybody like you guys around if I was, unarmed and in a dangerous scenario. Like, I don't want to wait for the cops to get there.
No, their average response time is like 12 minutes. Yep. And my wife was attacked in our garage by a schizophrenic guy who was just having an episode and had just beat his mom
to death, damn near.
Yeah, they transported her as expectant and investigated it as a murder investigation because she was beat so badly they thought she would die for sure. Wow. And then he came wandering down the street as a couple of our friends were leaving like a workout little group they have to train in our garage. They were all walking out to their cars, and he went after one of them. So my wife started yelling at him. Then he turned, came at her in the garage, and she just, thank God because we had some uncomfortable interactions with this guy, we kept a bottle or a can of bear spray on the workbench. And I had made sure, I was like, listen, you need to rehearse, like pull the safety, point it, you know what I mean? There's 2 steps to fire. You don't just grab it and spray. You have to remove this little plastic tab. And she did it, but literally as he got a hold of her arm, she was just starting to hose him down.
Wow.
And if he had beaten his mom near death, God knows what he would have done to her. So again, it wasn't a firearm, but having tools available to you that can affect a situation. And I read a really great essay about, how the gun is the great equalizer, where an 80-year-old woman is on the same playing field as a 22-year-old, drug addict.
Gun is civilization.
Exactly, because no 80-year-old woman can fight me and win with fists. But if she has a 9mm pistol in her purse, now she's on the same playing field I am. Mm-hmm. And it's been, you know what I mean? So there is a lot of, or I should say there's validity in the fact that it's a tool, and if it's used correctly, just like I can kill people with my hammer or my screwdriver.
With my bare hands.
Yeah, exactly. Think
Electric
of the number.
North Jiu-Jitsu. Come check it out.
But it's funny, like I've done a bunch of school construction projects, and one of the things the general contractor will ask you when you're walking in, they're like, are you carrying any weapons? It's like I'll look down at my tool belt and be like, yeah, I've got
technically no.
Yeah, yeah. I guess not. Other than a razor knife, a hammer, and a freaking
anything harder than skin is a weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how you want to use it.
Yeah. It is a weird one being a mental health thing because it's like, I don't know. You could just be a low profile kind of nutball. And like, go get a gun today while you still can, but go through it. And it's like the checklist thing is kind of the only thing. And unless I've been institutionalized into a mental asylum or something, or violent crime in the past, I'm not going to have a history or record or something saying don't allow the sale of this gun to this person.
But even then, isn't that only at a federal level? Isn't that only a federal check when you fill out that form?
I have no clue how it works. It feels like a joke when you do it. It's like, just click yes, or you don't get this gun. And it's like, how are you really addressing who does or doesn't get these, or the type of people, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is, what if you just don't like someone's politics? Like Mike Glover was called a domestic terrorist by the FBI. So what if they just decided, well, now Mike doesn't qualify for firearm sales because we don't like that he represents,
Preparedness.
personal preparedness and independence. So how you know what I mean? Because anything the state gets involved in, it seems like gets corrupted.
Slippery slope real quick when they start putting any other blocks in, which is unfortunate because there's got to be a way to do this. But I certainly don't believe that taking away anybody's rights is the way. And until I could have some crazy things in my head, but should that stop me from being able to get a firearm? I don't think so.
Not until you act on them.
Not until you act on them. And then it's too late.
But then it's too late, right?
Yeah. But then it's like you look at things like driver's licenses. You know, it's like, well, a car is a very dangerous.
Murder a lot of people with a box truck.
But that's what I mean. It's a very dangerous thing. And so they're like, hey, we need you to give us the minimal effort. You can show us you can parallel park between these two orange cones and stick your arm out and turn your blinker on when you're merging into traffic.
2 foot for the brake and
we're
good to go.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's like, in a certain sense, I get that. I think that I don't want to just give this 16-year-old, I don't want to give this 16-year-old the keys to this car already.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to, let's at least have a proficiency test.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm at with like concealed carry. Is it scares the shit out of me that people just shove it, like they drop a 357 into their purse with their
love you,
gloss.
Mom.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's what I was going to say earlier. Is
And then imagine the mall food court scenario. Think if like 16 people bust out personal carry weapons and just start blazing.
Oh yeah.
Like the reality is that young man who took the shooter out, he's a anomaly. Like most people are not that well trained. Like he obviously had put in the time and the effort to have himself trained. And my God, man, imagine, again, like I said, if a bunch of people just busted out concealed carry pistols and started shooting, you'd have just as many casualties from... I used to say if I were a terrorist in Mosul and I wanted to kill a whole lot of soldiers, I would just walk into a chow hall and fire an AK-47 in the air because everybody's armed with an M16. And if they all just start shooting back, you know what I mean? Like you just have crossfire. It'd be Polish ambush all over the place. Yeah.
Polish.
The Polish in me takes offense to that. Kind of triggered.
That hurts. That hurts. Makes me want to go to Costco though.
Was that a microaggression?
Yeah. Well, that was.
So I feel like there should be sorry, I cut you off, but to finish my point, I feel like there should be a minimum level of training required to carry a concealed pistol, but at the same time, I don't want Big Brother in charge of it. I want it to fall on people's sense of personal responsibility and sort of their own acknowledgement that if I'm going to take, this is a big responsibility.
People don't know what they don't know, though. Right?
I know.
So, I mean, I got my first gun at 21 when I could. Right?
Fuck yeah, you shoved it down the front of your pants.
The back of my pants because I was scared. I was like, this is new too. My whole situation, right? So, there was lack of training, right? Yeah. There was a complete lack of training, and I walked around for 8 years with a gun in the back of my pants, thinking like, "Oh, I'm fine." And then I
smell like a chocolate pretzel.
Yeah, exactly. It was horrible.
It's like chocolate. What are you talking about?
Smells like gun oil and deuce.
Yeah. Excuse me. I didn't realize. I thought, hey, I'm carrying this. I'm responsible. I'm only going to use this for what I deem necessary, and like I thought that was enough. And it certainly was not until I took some training from you and realized, like, oh, So I mean that's kind of embarrassing to say, but it took almost a decade before I got actual training.
You're not alone.
And then realized, holy shit, I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know how to hold a pistol correctly. I didn't know how to really shoot a pistol correctly. And I went shooting with my buddies yesterday, and they're all getting into guns now, and they're, times, their backs against the wall with this AR stuff. But as far as pistols go, like, it is apparent that they have had no training. And I was like, I was there last year, 2 years ago. I guess 2 years ago now, I was there, like, not knowing what the hell I was doing. So just the mechanics of drawing a pistol and shooting a pistol and having that level of knowledge. And it took me meeting you to go to a place, see it, and see what actual shooters can do when they're trained and go, oh, I am so far off. I'm beyond white belt. We have a lot of jiu-jitsu references in here, but I'm beyond a white belt, or less than a white belt in guns. Sticking one in your back pocket doesn't make you, it makes you more dangerous. Yeah. But like I said, I don't want the government getting involved and saying, like, turning this into, a Germany situation where you have to have, 2,000 hours of training before you can get your rifle that has to be held at some, locker room somewhere. And
and you have a lot of money to be able to own guns in those countries too.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's one way of, backdoor gun control is making these classes out of reach for a common guy, and common man prices are just that it's ridiculous. So I do think there needs to be some sort of a class you have to take, like a driver's ed, but if the government's teaching it, it's like, well, we're going to do this, and it's going to
end up being them that rubber stamp it either way. So at that point, it becomes like a backdoor level of gun control that it's this weird double-edged sword. I want mandatory training to carry a gun, but I don't want the government to have control of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with I think it's 1639, that was the where they made it so you have to wait 10 days for semi-automatic assault weapons. I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah.
But when they did that, you have to take a class too, an online class, which literally it's worthless. You literally click. I'm done. Like,
that's just a backdoor so somebody can make some money.
Yeah. Well, most of them are free.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Some places probably charge too, but you can get it literally for free on YouTube, and it qualifies as a class.
It's
so it's not even a legit.
There needs to be a day where people go and get training. Because, that 1639, they were like, hey, you can't buy your lowers anymore. You can't buy your ARs anymore. You can't buy a pistol and get it. And but it was for the AR. It was for the rifles, right? So when that happened, it was just like, oh, well, I can't get one. And then I have to take this class. And then I got on it. And, just like you said, it was online. It was read this thing, click.
Yeah,
you're good to go. All right. And
you literally pretty much don't learn anything.
And
it's very basic.
Yeah, that goes back to how little our elected officials actually care about people's safety. All this it's all smoke and mirrors. They don't give a shit, because if they did, they'd actually be addressed. Like, it wouldn't be a click, hey, you're qualified.
I feel like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, though, when I say it, right? Because I don't want gun control.
No, I get it.
We all,
training. So there's a
I want people to be competent to handle that thing. Like, if you're I don't want dangerous drivers on the road either. I want trained drivers on the road so that it's not dangerous to everyone else. And I don't want untrained people carrying a pistol around in their purse or in their pocket or in their belt.
If they came up with a way to say, like, the maximum length of these classes were you had to have 10 hours of training or 20 hours of training, and they said, this is it, it will never be higher, like, that's the most you have to do, and you have to pass, a proficiency test. That would be, and it was free. They should give training like that to people. You want to talk about having, classes for people in society, and like giving up money and taxpayer money for things.
Well, I'm only going to push back against this because I've run into this with Training Northwest, where people are like, you should be providing this training for free.
No.
Like,
I'm talking about the government.
Do you guys have any idea what?
I'm talking about social programs, right?
Okay.
Like, so if we're going to have social programs for all manners of things, for, from, reassignment surgeries or whatever that people want to, dealing with the homeless issues, why wouldn't we have a situation where it's like, hey, you want a gun? You're American. We allow it. Here's the training that we provide, and here's here's a safe that we provide, after that, and we don't get the key to it, you have to take this class. The class is only going to be, law says 10 hours. So they're not doing the 2,000 hour or whatever. I don't know the actual number in Germany, but I watched something and it was ridiculous. It was like becoming a falconer here. It was like what the hell kind of
Congratulations, you can have your 410 shotgun now.
And they give you you only have a certain, so if they did away with that and said, here you go, so you had to, and then at that point, everybody was trained and they had safety, and I wish they did it in schools. I really do.
They need to bring that back.
I wish they had gun safety.
They used to have
clubs.
yes. There used to be archery and rifle shooting used to be in most schools, like back in the 50s and before then.
That's cool.
Yeah, and actually, some of the private school, like Greg's, the school his girls go to, they take archery as an elective.
I've seen archery in public schools.
Have you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've seen in public high schools, we'll show up for a wrestling tournament, and it's like there's a bunch of bail targets, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This is awesome in their gym, and, a bunch of...
Even OMAC didn't have that.
Yeah.
Surprised. Yeah.
Well, I remember growing up, Leota Junior High, I lived right next to Leota Junior High, and me and my brother would go out in the backyard and find arrows. We felt like we were finding artifacts, going in the backyard, and these kids just launching them over the fence, but... that was something that they did in junior high, right? And then I think there's still a bunch of rural schools that do like shotgun.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
competition.
my high school had trap shooting.
Did they really? And you know what? Boy Scouts has lost a lot of its popularity just because of.
You mean Scouts of America?
Well, yeah, that's right. You can't call them
inclusive.
boys. Yeah. And there's a whole lot of sexual abuse allegations that came out of there, which sucks. But Boy Scouts used to cover a lot of that shit. You were in a Cub Scout troop, and you'd go shoot. Like Cub Scouts, you'd do the BB gun shoot and like the little bows, and then as you went up the levels, it'd turn into 22s and like the bigger bow and arrows. But all that, canoeing and building a fire, all these things have sort of been lost. And I'm getting off topic, but you know what? I'm not even pregnant, but I'm going to call a pee break, and then we'll come back. Okay. All right, we're back from peeing.
Chelada number 2.
There it is. So we were talking about sort of the duality of the necessity for training if you're going to carry a gun versus not wanting the government involved in our affairs. And
well, I'll say it again. Like seeing my buddies, not to say I don't want to talk bad about my buddies and their abilities to shoot, but
you should have heard what he was saying about you guys when we were at break.
Complete lack of being able to shoot proper. And there was 6 of us up there, and there was a lot of that, you go to a place and you go to shoot. If you're going to a public spot where we can find a pit or whatever, like that hasn't been shut down because they're shutting everything down, you're shooting and you're hoping everybody there has some level of safety oriented mindsets. And I had a buddy loading a gun or like getting ready to shoot, and there's another buddy that's 10 foot away from him. He's not going to hit him, but he's, the barrel isn't past him, the direction he's shooting. So it's like, dude, you were take a step forward. There is a line in which we are shooting across, and you need to be up to that line. We're going to treat this like fucking bowling. Step up to the line. Yes.
But again,
before you pull
you
that
don't
trigger.
know what you don't know. And so people, again, this complete unfamiliarity with firearms, which is what has been created in the United States, is what leads to all these sort of safety issues, is that people just aren't familiar with them. But if you grow up rural, like Kourtney did, or like pretty much all 4 of us did, like I grew up in OMAC where guns are just part of your life. Like it was never a thing. I keep all my guns in a safe now because I live in a suburb and my kids' friends come in and out of the house, and I don't want to leave a gun where a kid can get a hold of it.
I grew up without guns.
Did you?
I grew up in a house.
I thought your dad was not a hunter.
No. Growing up, my grandpa was a hunter, but I think we had a 22 in the closet that my grandpa had given my dad, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
Greatest caliber ever made.
Yep.
But grew up in that situation. So I came from not knowing and just think and had that kind of ego that like, oh no, I'm
a man.
Yeah, I can do what, I know how to use this. And it's like, I had no clue until 2 years ago.
Well, so, I mean, coming from OMAC where everybody has deer rifles and shotgun, not like tactical style guns, but everybody's dad had a lever action 30-30 and a 12 gauge shotgun and
A 22.
Exactly, a 20. Everybody had a
That's
22.
right. That's right.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. And every kid, by the time you're in 5th grade, your dad had bought you a 243 for deer hunting. Mm-hmm. And so, and they were never locked up. They were just kind of like ours were literally leaning in a corner off the living room.
But
like,
you knew.
Exactly. But
not to touch them.
Exactly. Because we grew up around them, we had respect because the first thing your dad teaches you is the safety rules with a BB gun. Mm-hmm. And you're not allowed to touch the pellet gun until you learn the BB gun. And then you go to the pellet gun. And then when you're safe with the pellet gun and he trusts you with the pellet gun, then you're allowed to take the 22. And it's like this progression. And, oh shit, where was I going with this? I had and and the other part of that is the fact that they're there and they're available and that it's just part of what my dad and I did. Exactly. It takes the stigma out of it. And so one of the things even though my guns are all locked up, one of the rules I have with my kids is at any time they're allowed to be like, "Hey Dad, can I see your gun?" "Yep. Which one you want to hold?" And we go out to the garage and we get it out and I make them, before I open the safe, they have to recite their big 4 safety rules. And then I hand them whatever gun it is they want to hold and they have to check it, see that the chamber's empty. They have to check the safety. And then once that's done, then I'm like, all right. Now
what are the big 4 rules?
Oh, Christ, I'll fuck it up. It's finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Never point a gun at anything you don't want to destroy. Know what's in front and behind of your target. And which one am I missing? Finger off the trigger, never point
Gun
anything.
is always loaded?
Yes. Yeah, and there's different variations. You can Google it and you'll get a few different variations of it. But it's all kind of like assume every gun is loaded or always check the chamber when it's handed to you. There's different ways to say it, but it's all the same ideas, right? And so anyway, the idea is they're always allowed to see my guns. So there's even if they were not locked, there's no reason to sneak because the answer is always yes if you just want to go hold it. Mm-hmm. And so this idea that like you're going to hide it under your mattress and not tell anybody about it and hope your kids don't find it, that's fucking retarded.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's more like just rather than treat it like it's a plague on society, just treat it like it's the tool. Yeah, I have hammers and screwdrivers in a toolbox out in the garage, and my rules with those are you guys are welcome to use them. You just got to put them back when you're done and use don't be like you're not allowed to hit your brother with a hammer. You know what I mean? Like people are like
they want to.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me. You know what I mean? If they could, they would. But you're not allowed to point a gun at a person. You're not allowed to hit your brother with a hammer. And you're not allowed to stab other kids in the neighborhood with a screwdriver. Yeah. Like, because they would if they could. Like, there are times when they're all fired up and they're fighting with each other, and if they could, they would. So treating a gun any differently than a hammer or a knife or a screwdriver is kind of fucking, it's just stupid to me.
Yeah. It just requires a little bit more skill to, be proficient.
Yeah. The only difference is the range, right? So we're talking about, and Greg's big on this, like different tools for different ranges. Jiu-jitsu has a range of like 0 to 3 feet, right? And then a pistol has a range of 0 to 40 meters. And then a rifle has a range of 0 to whatever. If you're Kourtney,
1,200
a mile.
yards, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to get back to Kourtney though.
Yeah,
because we got Kourtney here. What is the longest distance you've shot?
Probably 1,200 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that pretty standard for competition?
They'll typically have a long stage. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll have one of those.
Okay. And then with hunting, what's the longest you've shot with hunting? Because I've heard like, okay, I'm proficient to 1,200 yards, so I'm going to half that to feel 600 yards is my max shot for an elk or a deer. Or,
I haven't had that long of distance shots available for like deer, and I don't elk hunt or anything like that. But on a bear, I I missed a shot just so close, and it was because
Did you see Trace?
I did see Trace. Yeah, we re-recorded it. I saw it, everything. I saw right where my bullet hit. It was 830 yards, and so I was ranging it, and my rangefinder was giving me 2 ranges, just going back and forth between the 2 ranges. So I was like, okay, well, I have to choose one of them. So I chose the further range because I knew if I missed, I'd miss over the top. And I felt better about missing over the top than potentially shooting in the guts and then having to track a bear, go over and find it and track a bear. And bears don't die easy at all.
No.
And so
Nor do owls.
There's a buddy that would disagree with
No
that.
comment. No comment.
Is that episode 6?
So I missed him right over the top. That's the longest shot I've taken on an animal. My husband's shot some coyotes at some ridiculous ranges though. And he doesn't, he doesn't do any competition. He just hunts.
What caliber does he use for coyote hunting?
6mm Creedmoor is his favorite, but he loves the 22-250 as well.
And is he using some sort of night optic or thermal, or is he doing daylight?
He doesn't shoot that far at night, no. But yeah, he's got, we just got Pulsar. We carry those at Benchmark now. And so we picked up one of their scopes, and it's like,
Hang on, go into detail what this is.
It's a,
For those of you who don't know.
Thermal vision.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I know.
So Pulsar, this is their, I think it's called their Trail LRF something or other, and it's a thermal vision, so you see heat signatures.
Yes.
So it's pretty
Things are
sweet.
badass.
I mean, you just, can see in a second when you're hunting at night, in colder weather, like instantly you can see an animal. Sometimes if it's, hot out, you'll get heat signatures off rocks and different things like that. Yeah. But man,
thermal is
it's insane.
terrifying from an infantryman's perspective because when you're used to the idea of camouflaging your body and then blending into the foliage.
And then you're actually fighting predator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And then some dude 1,600 yards away is just looking at your heat signature like, yeah, I see you.
Yep. Yeah. You're not hiding. You think you are. That's cute. Yeah. So I shot, trying to think of my other far shots. I mean, around here it's hard to get.
Oh, yeah. Western Washington's
God, yeah.
thick.
No, I mean, our range is max 100 yards because that's all we can get out of the rainforest.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really hard to get. You have to get, and then when you have access to longer distance, there's houses everywhere, out in the farmlands and stuff. It's so flat.
Yeah.
That's like hard
Quit
to find
building
a safe
houses.
place.
You know what I mean?
Go away.
Yeah.
We need
Back to
everybody back in the
California.
suburbs. Yeah, right. And go back to California, please.
There's something I like about shooting that, I don't know, like a lot of people that have hobbies that kind of find a meditative state about it. But there's something so meditative about trying to hit one particular spot. Or even like, I guess, sports like golf or soccer or basketball, trying to put one object in a hole. And there's something so satisfying.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Mike, there's a lady in the room.
Hang on. I know she's pregnant too. I'm breaking all the rules. Is there anything else that you like to do like that? Do you do archery? Do you play darts? Are you a cornholer?
Well, I'm obviously having a baby, so
There's one hobby.
I would say things that consist of that are not really. I mean, I hunt, I fish. I mean, fishing, you could kind of take that. And
Fly or cast or?
Either, yeah, I
Either
fly
one.
fish,
Yeah.
but when we've kind of started bass fishing a lot more lately. I've bass fished my whole life, but you are trying to aim for very specific spots when you're bass fishing, and it's like so satisfying when you flip it in there perfectly and it lands right in the spot.
Yeah.
But not just that, but landing lightly into the spot, so it's not like making a big disturbance and stuff. So that's, I guess, along the same lines, is super satisfying to be able to do that. I worked pretty hard to
No,
do
people
that
that enjoy these precision things, it's usually interesting. You find
It's so
something else
satisfying.
that they enjoy, like the finesse, like you're saying, just of casting allure for bass fishing? The way it hits, the entry, did you get that right angle? Was there a big splash?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting what people chase, and then the other things they kind of find interesting as well.
Yeah.
One of my best days shooting was I was down at the Kenmore range, which goes out to 300 yards, and I hadn't shot my 308 in years. And so I got a quick 0 on it at 100, and then one of the range officers came out, and he's like, "Hey, we're having a class in 15 minutes, so I'm sorry, but you guys, the public hours are closed, or member hours are closing down, so you guys got to be out of here in 15 minutes." And I was like, shit, I wanted to put rounds at 300 yards. And so I ran, we did a ceasefire. I ran all the way to the 300-yard line to set up a target, ran all the way back, and I sat down, and I'm looking at the bullet drop chart on the box of ammo I had. I'm like, 17-inch drop at 300. Oh my God, what the fuck kind of what am I? And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, so looking at the turret, I haven't had this gun out of the safe in years. I'm like, quarter MOA. I'm like, I think it's 30 whatever clicks. And then I fired my 3 rounds, and then we're out of time. And I was like, oh crap. I was like, I ran down to get my target, and I had put all 3 right through that little orange, 50-cent piece size sticker.
Nice.
And I was just like, yes! I made my whole weekend. My whole weekend was made right there.
That's awesome.
It's like, God damn it, that is amazing. And
I
the
hate
same
shooting
thing.
for groups.
It's
not my
But it's so
favorite.
satisfying when you do
is.
it. And so the same thing, even though shooting rat hole groups slowly with a pistol is not relative, I mean, it has some carryover to self-defense and combat style shooting, but it is so therapeutic sometimes. Or even my granddad's old 22 pistol, just take it out there and just slow fire, and just put them right through that same hole over and over again. And it's satisfying and therapeutic. There's something about it. And I think it's what you're talking about, Mike, is just the precision, just concentrating and doing something well over and over and over again. There's something to that.
Yeah, I think it's just an edge, mentally, people that like to get up and work out before they start their day.
Yeah.
The big reason they say is because it's all right, I get up, the beginning of my day, I have this giant obstacle, and my purpose is to take this heavy obstacle and get it away from me, right? And it's really hard. I don't want to do it, and I force myself to do it over and over. But if I start my day like that, it creates a mindset where it's like, okay, you start with adversity, and now you've gone through something really hard, so you can coast through the rest of your day. And I kind of feel that same way about shooting or precision things. Someone that's passionate of just where centimeters or just a little bit of pressure one way matters. It's kind of an interesting mental aspect of people that that they like to dial in or try and just get as close to perfect as they can.
Drag racing.
Yeah.
I grew up on a drag racing track, and that's, bracket racing.
Exact
It's
same thing, yeah.
there's
Trying to tune
so
that
many
engine.
things.
We can get 4 more horsepower out of this.
There's so many things. Or just hey, I got to run a 5.0, and if you go above it or you go faster, you broke out, So the fastest I can get to being 5.0, that's where I'm going, So or just your takeoffs and everything else. I do want to, because Kourtney's here. I want to keep talking to Kourtney about different stuff. And I feel like we're not. But so you've gone over your competition setup. What's your hunting setup?
It just kind of depends on what I'm shooting, but I just built a rifle recently in a 7 rem mag, kind of my new bear rifle, because I've really started doing a lot of bear hunting and I love it. It's my favorite. Cool. It's the best season. You can go sit at the top of the mountain in the sunshine and eat berries.
Eat berries. Yes, very nice.
What's not to love about that?
Salmon fish, eat berries, eat a bear.
So, I built a 7 rem mag. We did a custom action on that one. So Stiller Predator is what we went with. And then we went with not a carbon fiber barrel. We just started producing our carbon fiber barrels. So not that I was worried about anything, but more so that they were just more challenging to get because we hadn't made very many of them yet. So we wanted to get them out to customers and different things like that. So I just went with a spiral fluted barrel. So it looks cool too, but it's still got that, heavily weight reduced barrel.
Is that all the fluting is? Because I see, I was just at a gun shop today, and I saw the fluted spiraled fluted barrel. Is there anything specific about that makes it better? Or is it just lightweight and it looks cool?
Yeah, lightweight looks cool. Yeah. I mean, you do have, more heat dispersion off of flutes because there's less material there holding it in and different things like that.
Yeah,
and
more surface area.
Yeah, exactly. So it's at the end of the day, it's mostly lightweight and looks. The spiral fluting is not going to do anything different for you than straight flutes. It just looks cooler.
Yeah, it looks rad.
Yeah. You might get a little tiny bit more weight reduction off of it if you're counting ounces, but I don't know would be anything notable.
Okay.
How about, actually, what optic do you put on it? What is your chosen glass?
We went with a Leupold Mark V.
Okay.
So it's kind of a heavier glass, but it's big.
What's the objective
really
diameter on the lens?
I think it's a 55.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's for low light, I imagine.
Yeah, and then it's got a 34 mil tube on it, so you got a lot of dialing.
A lot of dialability.
Yep, exactly. And it's like a 5 to 25, I think, is what the magnification is, if I remember right. But an awesome scope, one of the top end of Leupold's options. Very, very clear. The turrets lock in place, which is really nice. Oh. And so then after you go full revolution, this little post pops up. So you know that you've gone a full revolution above your zero. So you won't lose zero. You go back down. That comes back to center. And then it locks back in place when you go back to zero. So a lot of good features about that scope that I like.
Awesome.
And then for the stock, I went with our carbon fiber Ibex stock. So that's a stock that Benchmark has designed. We don't make it that in-house. We send that out to, the stock professionals to do. Okay. But it's set up for long-range shooting. It's got a pronounced vertical pistol grip on it, a higher cheek piece, and just a very rigid quality stock, but it's also lightweight. So, I was not thinking too much about super lightweight. I was thinking, I want something good for distance. People get a little bit confused by, I want a long range rifle that I can take into the high country. Okay, great. Lose 5 pounds and carry a 5 pound heavier rifle, please. Yeah. Because that weight on your rifle makes a difference. Yeah. So these super lightweight builds that people are building, like 5-6 pound rifles, are super lightweight. Yeah, I mean, if you're blacktail hunting, here in the Pacific Northwest, and you're shooting 50 to 100 yards, 200 yards, that's no big deal. But when you're shooting long range and you want, 600-800 yards, you want a heavier rifle that is gonna, not shift too much under recoil, and it's really gonna allow you to get, more accurate shots off when it really matters. It really matters not when you're shooting matches. It matters when you're shooting at an animal. Right. Nobody wants to wound anything. Down, right? Yeah. We want to make it as ethical as possible, and that's a big question when it comes to long range hunting is ethics. Nobody wants to see anything suffer. I mean, no right-minded person does in any way. And so that's why match shooting is really good, being capable and confident. And that match shooting is, I think, the best comparison to real-world hunting scenarios, too, because it puts you under stress.
Yeah.
And when you're
limited time to range, get a solution, and then send the shot.
Yep, exactly. And so when you're under that stress, your heart rate elevates, you get all shaky, everything goes out the door, and you're like not thinking right. And that, really gives you a comparable experience to hunting.
That's why we keep a chilada in our gear belt.
Yeah, that helps a little bit.
To get rid of the shakes.
Yeah. I got a bone to pick.
Hang on. I had one more question about our hunting setup.
Go.
Do you carry like a rice sock or a pillow for like under your, like in competition? I know a lot of guys will have, or even like tactically going back to like my time in the Middle East, a lot of our sniper Overwatch, they'd have like the rice sock to go underneath their buttstock, or the pillow under their firing arm or whatever. Do you carry a lot of that stuff when you're hunting, or is that purely competition?
I don't carry a lot of it when I'm hunting. I choose one bag to take into the mountains. You can always scrunch up a coat or put a backpack under you if you really need some more support. Okay. But I definitely carry a bag, and they make bags that have lighter fill.
You say a bag, like a sandbag or a...
No, definitely not sandbag. That's too heavy.
Well, I mean, like the little ones you see at the range. Like
it's probably about... that big, would you say, like 4 inches by 4 inches or something? Sure. And it's got a light fill in it, so it doesn't pack a bunch of weight, and I could just clip it on the outside of my backpack. It's a little bit bulky, but it's good and it provides a good amount of support.
Gotcha. And do you hunt with a bipod or a tripod?
Bipod, yeah.
Bipod.
If I'm, I have a tripod. Typically, I try to shoot off of a bipod, though. You can try to take both. If I have to choose
Is
one,
it just the good old Harris, like spring-loaded?
Good old Harris. Yep, that's exactly what I use.
Okay.
You said that on your gun, you have a pistol grip on it. Now, earlier, I thought we weren't a fan of thumb holes because they change your finger positioning. Wouldn't that do the same?
It's different. So the thumb hole stock, I get what you're saying. It kind of gives you that, exactly what you would get out of a pistol grip, where your thumb kind of wraps around the side. But with our stock, I guess a pistol grip is just more of a vertical grip, where the stock comes back to the end of the action and then it drops down straight, so that you can have your hand in that position that I was speaking about earlier, where your thumb is, above your trigger finger. And
is that
puts you
also
in a
to get
proper
the
position?
Is that also to get the stock off the ground a little bit? If you have a pistol kind of drop on it, you've got 3 or 4 inches, so it's not resting on the ground on your.
It actually more so would rest because it drops down versus like a traditional stock has that angle. You don't usually want to use that area for support. You want to support more towards the back of the stock, like where the butt pad is, as far back as possible, because when you recoil, your gun shifts upward. Just like with a pistol, your gun shifts upward. And so if you can support that area the best that you can support it, that's going to keep the gun from having any high shots. You'll have high shots at long range if your butt is slipping at all. So that's really where you want to support it as far back as possible.
That's how I've been shooting so good.
Good.
Yeah. Are you mean you didn't already know that, Mike?
Are you trying to get prone? Like when you can, like that's always prone. Okay.
Yeah, that's the most stable shooting position. If you can shoot from the prone position, do it. But if you can't, seated and kneeling and then standing is kind of the last. But that's the cool thing about matches is you practice all of those positions. So really, you should be proficient at any of those positions.
And you're resting, or I guess you're shooting off of a tripod, but like sometimes
or bipod,
have you had instances where it's like, okay, well, I need a little bit more, I can't lay down here. I need to shoot off of a backpack, or like, are there certain ways that you would say this is how you need to shoot, or this is like,
I have a frame in my pack, so that I can pack the meat out if I do shoot something up there. And so it is good and stable, and I could use that if I ran out of elevation, I guess, on my bipod. But yeah, if you can carry a tripod, they make really nice carbon fiber tripods to take, and that's a really great setup. If you can get an Arca rail, the tripod will clamp right onto that, and then so you just have to kind of tell the gun where to go and then keep it steady.
I may be talking about something that already exists, but since most people are already carrying a spotting scope, are there tripods that you pop the spotting scope off, pop your rifle on? Okay.
That's where the Arca rail comes into play, because typically they're using that. That's actually like a camera rail setup, and they've just fashioned it for guns now. It's not anything new for the shooting industry whatsoever. And so spotting scopes typically will use that same mounting bracket, and then you just flop it over.
Got it.
That's slick.
Makes sense.
When you're bear hunting, are you hunting clear cuts?
Typically,
and exactly,
I have.
You could drop me a pin
coordinates
of exactly where. No.
No.
Is that your style around here? And do you do west of the mountains for like black bear?
Yeah, I have only black bear hunted here in Washington, and I find it hard to do clear cuts. Typically, when you are going there, it's going to be more people. So I go into the high country, where there's alpine, and so it's open. You'll find meadows and stuff in there, and there.
So you're hugging ridges and little crevices. Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
That's what I was wondering about as far as getting prone in some of those spots that you're at.
Yeah, it can be challenging sometimes. And I've shot off my backpack. Yeah, I think I did that last year. Or I used it. I had my bipod up all the way, and then I was like using the backpack as a support for my stock as well. So that's another thing that you can do to really just help stabilize your position as much as possible.
Yeah, because like shooting up a mountain, up like a snow chute, right?
Yeah.
Like that's pretty tough to get that angle.
Yeah, going in, and that's one of the features of our stock. It has a long recoil pad, and so that really allows you to go in those extreme positions, whether it's up or down, and have a good solid amount of butt pad into your shoulder. Because again, that not being supported is going to help have you sending shots in the wrong way.
What do you do with your bear meat?
I was just going to say, do you put it in a bag and spin it? Please tell me that.
John Tuss does a really good job. I love bear sausage.
You make like breakfast sausage or like a summer sausage?
Yeah, I like breakfast sausage and our Italian sausage, stuff like that. Biscuits and gravy. I've got some other Italian sausage recipes. I've ate wild game my whole life, so really it's like not that big of a deal. And when you shoot a bear in the high country, it's not like bears that have been eating fish or garbage down here, So it's good meat.
We got our first bear this year, and it wasn't a garbage bear, as most people would suspect. But yeah, it was amazing how fat it was and from what they were eating. And we made jerky out of it, and it was delicious. And then like the back straps and stuff like that, we took it archery elk hunting, and we had the steaks at camp, and it was like, it tasted like a pot roast. It was really good. I was quite surprised how good it actually was.
One of the best roasts I ever had, somebody brought in that worked with me at Scouted Arms a long time ago, and it was like smoky. It was so delicious. And he was like, oh, yeah, this is bear. And I was like, oh, I've heard so many bad things about bear. This is delicious.
There's a lot of different things about game meat that just, they're garbage. Like, like antelope's trash, and you go and try it. It's like, whew.
Yeah,
this is finished on cornflakes, man.
I can cook you duck that you love. It's like people are like, "Oh, duck's the worst meat ever." Just give that to your dog. It's like, I'll show you otherwise.
Yeah. It's some people just suck at cooking.
Yeah,
like I hate to say it, but my dad was the worst. Like,
but handling the meat as well.
Yeah.
And my dad would be like, "Oh, it's T-bone steaks tonight," and we'd all be like, "Oh, fuck." You know what I mean? Like I didn't know I liked steak until I got married.
No, that's terrible.
I didn't either. Actually, we didn't eat a ton of steaks growing up, and my husband, he cooked me the best steak I've ever had, and I was like, all right,
what is this? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it just goes to show that it's all about the preparation.
Yep. How quickly you get the guts out of the animal if you're going to do it that way, or getting it cooled down. Yep, exactly. Making it a quick, clean kill. No gut shots, things like that. Really makes a difference on the flavor of the animal. And then preparing the animal meat when you're finally going to eat it, marinating it makes a big difference. Stuff like that too. It's like, I like to cook kind of. I don't like to clean up after it, but I like to cook.
Absolutely.
Are you into cooking, Mike?
100%.
All right. I was going to say, because I know Jordan is, because I've
I've
experienced it. And then I was thinking about that the other night, and I was like, because that's going to have to be an episode coming up at some point. It's just straight cooking.
I wanted to do that dinner party episode.
We're gonna have to have at some point. We're gonna have to expand this into like what do they call these, like paywall things where you have like a membership and. Like you get
that's a ways down the line.
Dude, you get to watch, like, you can watch Jordan jerk off, but then Mike and I will cook a steak.
Sorry, we took a drastic turn there, guys. Easy.
Kourtney, you had to take it into the basement, huh? All right.
Golly.
I mean, I think for a couple $100
$15, he'd do it.
What?
$15?
Yeah.
I think that's stuff you can find on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like well, hang on. Because I do all the uploading into the podcast website, they're like, do you want to set up like a private member area where only members can see
Patreon.
videos or exactly. Yeah, if you want to see Jordan get naked. And also, but you know what? While we're talking about it, Jordan manages the Enlightened Neanderthals Instagram page.
Don't even say it.
Send dick pics.
All right, I'll put this out here. $500 donation, you get an evening out where you get to go out to dinner with us.
With Jordan.
But for $1,000, there's a post Patreon wall.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna cut into my other, my other business, but freaky deaky creaky. Follow me, guys.
That's good.
What were we talking about?
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Cooking.
wild game.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best wild game you've had? Is it bear? Would you say bear is your number one? Or
No, definitely not. I had doll sheep in Alaska, and that was really good.
So that was your one trip to Alaska?
Yeah, so I did not hunt that. No. So we went to Alaska and worked at a lodge. And so in the early months it was fishing, and then we went up to the hunting lodge, and so they had moose and caribou and doll sheep, and that was amazing.
Wait,
So,
you worked at the hunting lodge?
Yeah.
What was your job there? What'd you do?
so my husband is a guide, so he guided for fishing, and then he was going to start working into hunting guiding. And then I just cooked and cleaned.
Whatever you could.
Yeah, whatever had to do. Yeah, I
And
was
so
like in
did
Alaska. Who cares?
Did you get private tours? And I mean, with just the people around and stuff, like, would you go fishing and hunting as well while working there? Or you were pretty much stuck doing your daily job?
Yeah, so I had to do my daily job, of course, but I'd get to go fishing. The hunting, you don't really, get to go hunting. But when the, clients are out in the mountains for a week or whatever, you just kind of screwing off at the lodge.
Yeah.
And what you're doing salmon, of course?
Yeah, so they
mainly?
did salmon and trout at the lodge. So lake trout, rainbow trout. They'd also catch grayling, and a lot of sockeye.
It's a lot of sockeye.
Lot of
So
sockeye.
you're river fishing then?
Yeah,
I imagine.
Yeah, we were on Lake Iliamna, and so they're a tributary of Bristol Bay, and so the sockeye come up that river,
Okay.
and then they go through the lake and then up the rivers again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How old were you when you did that?
I was over 21. I remember. Yeah, that we actually got married that summer. We weren't even engaged.
Alaska?
Yeah.
Oh,
We
cool.
were just up there working, and it was like summer solstice is a couple days, and they're like, oh, you
Fuck
should
it, we
get
should get
married. And I looked at my husband. I was like, well, yeah. And he's like, sure. So that was our, very informal engagement. And then we got married 2 days later.
That's awesome.
How
It
many
doesn't
years
have
ago
to be
was that?
complicated
Oh,
there.
like 7 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be complicated.
It was awesome. I would do it like that forever. It was the best way to get married. You don't have to worry about, so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so, and they can't sit next to each other, and this
God.
person doesn't like this food, and they can't come on this day. It was free.
Yeah.
And actually I got paid because I was still working.
Got married on the clock.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was great. Yeah. So we did that. And then after the fishing season was over, we go up to their other lodge, which was north of the Arctic Circle. And we were doing hunting stuff up there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You're so much cooler than us.
Yeah.
It just sounds.
I don't even know how a gun works. Let me put that out there.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It was awesome. Life just gets in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now that you're back down here, like, are you just like everybody else, like hunting and all that is like on the weekends, or do you have, because of your ties with the gun reviews and all that,
So
is
what
life
we
a little-
want to know, is there like a sweet company hunting trip that we can somehow scab onto?
I wish. I have not got that opportunity yet. I'm working towards it. No. I just hunt on the weekends. I don't because I take all of my time off for the TV show. I don't go on any hunting trips or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
We would always take a trip to Idaho every year. Me and my dad and my some other relatives and stuff. But I haven't been able to do that for a while. So just hitting it hard here, learning how to blacktail hunt and brown black bear hunt and stuff. So
what with the TV show and all that, what's like the most surprising thing that you're running into that you didn't realize was gonna be part of the experience?
Does the Outdoor Channel have hair and makeup?
no. Well, they might, but not for me. I don't know. I can't really say that any of it was like, super surprising. I mean, I just feel like another person doing, whatever.
With
shooting
cameras
guns
around?
Yeah, it's just with cameras around. I still get nervous and stuff, and I screw up all the time.
Oh, it's so
and,
weird. Like I was telling Greg earlier today that it is, or actually it was you.
Yeah.
It's so natural for me to sit here and have this conversation because I look you guys in I look you guys in the eye, and so it's not saying like is difficult.
We had a
But it's-
podcast, the last podcast that just got released. I say fuck like probably 250 times.
Don't make it into a drinking game.
Yeah, certainly not. No, you could. You could. They'd be hammered.
Yeah.
But we're talking to you guys, even though we have microphones in our faces. It's easy to talk to you guys because we're just having a conversation. But talking into a camera for the YouTube channel just fucks me up.
Yeah, it definitely messes with your brain. I mean, you have to be, on time. We have a certain schedule that we have to stick to. You need to, be talking to each other for this amount of time, and you don't want any like lulls in it either. You're trying to provide education. You don't want to screw up. It's not scripted. I have to research everything. So if I have a gun review, I have to know what it is that I'm talking about. It's like this, it's very natural, but you also have to have a good train of thought.
Right. But every once in a while you have to look at this thing that's not a human.
Yeah.
And you have to look into it and talk, and something about it just weirds me out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. It's
that third wall, right?
Yeah. Or third wall or fourth wall?
I don't know. There's
I think
walls.
it's the fourth wall.
Fifth wall.
That's the ceiling.
I'd be so bad on TV every time my wife's like,
Spicoli, open your eyes.
I hate pictures. My wife's like, all right, smile. And the camera will be right in front of us.
Yeah.
And it's like an old Sears catalog. It's like something to the right is always going on.
Mike's always like,
I can't look straight, guys.
Can't turn left.
not MB Turner.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So when you're doing all that, like, what was the first TV show you did, and like how'd you get in contact with them? Like, what was the you were doing articles and just selling them to magazines, or
no, I didn't start doing the articles. I've only done one. I helped write another one with one of the producers from the TV show very recently that just got published. So I've got 2 published articles. That's it. So not like an established writer or anything by that means.
100% more than us.
Yeah.
I got an A on a paper
200%.
once.
With the TV show, a really good friend of mine and the barrel shop and everything, he's done a lot for us and for me personally. He runs the range out in Illinois that they film at, and they'd asked him, hey, do you know any competent female women in the industry? They can't be sponsored, this and that and the other thing. And he's like, let me think about it. And then he's like, oh, duh. And so he gave him my name. So then I went and I interviewed just like you would for any other job. It's just a little bit more nerve-wracking because I'm like,
I bet.
my husband kept saying, don't, go, if there's a black couch, just go away. Just come home.
Speaking of things that'll be behind a paywall,
So that was a big joke. But anyways, it went really well, and they, signed me on for a guest host position.
Wait, hang on. How do you guys know what she's talking about?
What are you talking about?
What?
I was just laughing at what you're laughing at.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was laughing because you guys were laughing.
Casting couch.
What do you mean? Yeah, I don't do that.
A good Christian over here.
So then I got signed on as a guest host, and I did 3 episodes. And that was actually in 2020, right when COVID hit. And so I was really worried that the show wasn't going to happen that year. And I was like, well, maybe they'll just use the guys that they currently have, and I won't even be a part of it. Who knows? And so it was scheduled way later. I didn't hear anything. And then I was like, oh, all right, well, that sucks. There goes that. And then it was like, oh, we're filming here in August. And so I flew out to Illinois in August, and I filmed 3 episodes. And then they asked me to come back as a full co-host for the next 2 seasons. So that was cool. And so this year it'll be a little bit different because I'm not shooting anything right now. So just lead concerns and noise and stuff for the baby. So that kind of sucks. I'll still be doing some filming this year, and then I'll be back next year.
Awesome.
So have you always kind of dabbled in this, like being like a broadcaster or a journalist, or even with your articles writing? Is this something you've always done? Like you've had a YouTube thing, or
gosh,
you're
no.
just like, I'm going to give this a shot and see what they think?
I hated writing when I was in school. And what's funny is I love writing now. It's hard to just sit down and write, but when I do it, I love it.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt because I keep having this conversation with Tyler where we say school is wasted on kids because now that we're older and a little slower, it's like, God, I would love to just go read interesting books and explore these thoughts I have. But instead I have all these responsibilities that have to get taken care of, and it all gets pushed into the background. So,
that's a good point. I like that. No, that's okay. Because, it was totally wasted. I hated writing class. I mean, I just, do the bare minimum and go through it. But I always have dreamt, I mean, I haven't told a lot of people this, but I've always dreamt of, a hunting or fishing kind of show. So that was something that always interested me. I liked watching them. I'm a big fan of Meat Eater. That's, my favorite
Renella's
ever.
the man.
Yeah, he's awesome. I think that's a really well formatted show. And it would just be cool to have something like that someday.
Have you read any of his books, like American Buffalo or anything?
I haven't. Admittedly, I'm not a big reader.
One of my favorite Mike Kozak quotes from our podcast is, "Do you follow Buffalo at all?" So this is what we need to start asking every guest. Hey, do you guys, Kourtney, do you follow Buffalo?
I try not to stand too close to those things.
Well, Meat Eater has some really cool stuff, but then have you seen that? Is it like the Starlight, or they made a document. It's a really well done.
I know exactly what you're on.
Stars in the Night.
Stars in the Night.
Yes, I saw that. That's really good.
It's amazing. I was able to sit down. My girlfriend's mother is not into hunting. She doesn't like eating. I'd bring home deer, and she was like, I like their eyes too much. You can't feed me this. So but then antelope, she'll eat the hell of an antelope, right?
Right.
Because she's never seen one. So, so I'd slyly sneak in some blacktail into the diet,
Love it.
But
no, I'm good.
But I was able to sit down and watch this hunt, and I was like, this is why I like to hunt, and show her this really well done hunting show / documentary about why people are into hunting. Stars in the Night,
I believe Stars in the Night.
And what service is it on?
Netflix.
YouTube?
It's on Netflix. Steve Rinella.
Yeah.
Rinella's a great author, writer.
He's so well spoken.
And even-
he just was awesome to listen to.
Well, that's what he went to school for, I think, too. And he's just really...
And if you like Rinella and his writing style, big shout out to, was it Dan Flores? Was his one of his professors in college for evolutionary biology, and he wrote American Coyote and the American Serengeti. And if you kind of like his historical approach and just want to know more about the Americas, those two books are absolutely incredible. So anything Rinella, Meat Eater, much agreed. He paints a great picture.
Another guy who does really good video content for their hunting show is the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bone,
Okay.
Have you checked out some of his bear hunting
I don't
stuff?
spend enough time on YouTube, unfortunately. Watching
you
different
spend the
things
proper
like that.
amount of time on YouTube.
Yeah, then you're doing it
I'm
right.
writing articles, bitch.
Yeah, I'm over here just
give me too much
consuming
credit.
content, Yeah. So that, I guess that, check out because they do a really cool hunting videos. They're just really well done.
Well, I think it just goes to show what an amazing time it is for newbie hunters. And just I remember as a kid, 10 o'clock would happen, main shows would stop airing, and it'd be like, do you want to get the biggest whitetail in Wyoming? Or, and you're like, what is this? And it was some hunting kind of thing. It's well, that's kind of corny, or you'd see the ultimate camo. And
They're
now
walking up on the elk or whatever
Yeah.
from 4 different angles.
And now it's you have really accomplished hunters, you have great videos, you have fantastic articles, but not only that, that series you said, people seem to be more introspective into the actual act of hunting. It's not I'm just going and killing this and I have meat. It's hey man, this is beautiful. I feel grounded. I'm working hard to accomplish a goal. I'm providing food for myself that isn't hormone injected. The hunting kind of world is really, one, it's gotten blown up, and that sucks if you're an established hunter. But two, it's allowing people to really enjoy it and express it more. And if you've never been in it, maybe a 1, 2, 3 of how to get into it.
Yeah, it's a weird fusion of the non-GMO kind of quote unquote hippie crowd that are realizing that if you want true, like, cage-free, non-GMO, organically fed
Meat.
you're not getting it out of,
No, you're gonna
like,
go get it
even
yourself.
if it says that on the sticker at the grocery store, it doesn't.
No.
It does. It's not that.
I don't care what the whole food label says.
Exactly. You've got to walk out in the mountains and get it yourself, or raise it yourself on a farm.
Yeah.
Which those two camps used to be completely separate. The hunters were
Yeah, exactly.
the rednecks, and the yuppies were down in the suburbs.
It's like you're shooting Bambi, you piece of
Shit.
yeah, Republican shit or something, you know? And now it's like, yeah, if you want the freshest, most wholesome meat, it's kind of like you got to be wearing Birkenstocks and carrying a 30-06.
That's exactly
Yep.
what it is. That's perfect. That should be a T-shirt.
Birkenstocks and 30-06.
I love it.
No, I mean just a caricature of Kozak in his Birkenstocks with his bow slung over his back. Yeah. All right.
What's the best hunt you've been on?
I think probably my most memorable hunt was my first mountain blacktail that I shot. So I've shot, blacktail down here in the lowlands and stuff. 2 years ago, I shot my first blacktail just, up in the mountains and stuff. Me and my dad went hunting together because we always hunt together.
Yeah.
And he'd gotten his already, and it was the very last day of.
It was this high buck hunt, or
No, we don't do the high buck hunt. I never have. It's definitely something that I'd like to do, but it was just regular modern season. And so in the mountains, you don't get a late season. For modern, you get late season muzzleloader and stuff, which I did that this year unsuccessfully, but for modern. So anyways, it was the very last day, and it just, all worked together really nicely. And I got a nice little 2-point buck with little tiny eye guards, and I was like so happy. I mean, it's not the biggest buck I've ever shot in my life, but it was just a really cool experience, sneaking through the woods quietly and being able to get a shot off on one and be successful with it, because it's anybody who's hunted blacktail knows it's really hard.
impossible.
It's a badge of honor getting
Yeah.
a blacktail.
Yeah.
I think the high point of our property out at Granite Falls is rife with blacktail.
I'd believe it.
Yeah.
I've just seen it out there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
that
thick.
hillside,
Yeah.
the hillside we were shooting into, if you go up on top of that, it opens up just a little bit, and there's game trails and droppings everywhere.
Yep.
So I think that next time season comes around, we'll have to have like a friends of like you. Who else was on? Oh, I guess it's just been you and Dave. But like that would be an awesome
Yeah.
next episode with Kourtney. We'll go on like a blacktail hunt next fall or something.
I'm
Yeah,
in.
Jake. Sorry, that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah. Kourtney
Yeah.
and Jake out for a blacktail hunt.
I'd love
That'd be
that.
cool.
Teach us how to hunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Be
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah, well, I mean, you grew up with it, right? So
Yeah.
you're a typical, Northwest hunter,
Yeah.
which is really
Yeah, it is because I came from Omak, where you can see for miles.
Yeah.
And then the first time I went hunting on this side of the mountains was at Fort Lewis. And so we went kind of stomping out into this is while I was on active duty. And one of the other guys in the barracks was like, "Hey man, you want to go deer hunting this weekend?" Sure. And so we went stomping out into the rainforest, and I was like, "Dude, what are we going to shoot at? I can like our field of view is about 8 meters." So and it was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, we might be kind of wasting our time out here."
Yeah.
That's the one thing I will say about hunting bears on Western Washington, but especially in like our kind of foothills, is like it is so dense. And so you get into these little concentrated pockets of where bears are. And it's like you're walking an old skidder rail road or a trail.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can hear stuff in the distance. There is trails crash through berries eaten. And it's like, it is kind of a fun thing because you can only see 25 yards around here. That
It's also
when
a
you're in the
scary
thick of it.
thing.
Yeah, you feel it though. It's like I am alive.
That's where that lever action 30-30 comes into play.
I'll be honest. I was on a hunt looking for bear, and I followed this trail, and I was kind of just walking through, and it got thicker and thicker and thicker, and then all of a sudden I was like, I got to get down and like crawl through this tunnel, this bear tunnel, to be able to go any farther, or I just gotta push through, right? So, and I have a bow with me, and my strings getting all my strings
luck.
getting all exactly, like because I was like I'm gonna try and bear hunt a bow or bow hunt a bear, and so I'm trying to like sneak through the woods and slip through all the woods, and I follow this trail, and it just gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And it's this, reprod that's probably 15 years old. And so they're planted super tight together. And the trail all of a sudden like disappears, and it's just like a dog tunnel that it's like, oh, well, so I got scared. Yeah. I got completely scared, and I put away my bow. I put my bow on my back and pulled out my pistol. Yeah. And just walked through this thing with my pistol tight to my body and just kind of had to push through. And then I came up on this blackberry bush that like something was just there. Like I heard it like run off, and I was like, oh shit. Yikes. Like, and there was the blackberries where you could see it was kind of bedded down, and all the berries had been eaten. And there was like 2 spots where like a bear had just been like hanging out, and
you're in his house.
Yeah, looking for like fur and stuff. And it was like, holy shit, this is absolutely nutty.
People don't get that connection with their food.
No,
that's so major. Like I think about that every time I'm like hunting, wherever I'm hunting, whatever I'm hunting. It's just like people don't have that connection with their food. Like here I was, like I was in this bear's house. It's little, his area, like. Mm-hmm. And whatever, it didn't work out, but I mean, it's just like it's so close and personal and stuff. Like you just go and you buy a hamburger, like you don't feel what that cow is doing.
Bill Gates made this in a factory.
So expensive now. Yeah.
So I think fishing's a good median to bring people over, because I mean, you give anyone a fishing pole and they get a fish on, it's pretty hard not to get excited, And
you can feel good when you put it back in the water too. Like, I didn't like take a life of something.
Yeah.
I didn't
well,
need to,
even
and then you take it home and eat it. And you're like, salmon is delicious.
I'm more for let's take the life of this and eat it.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, just like you give that beginner a fishing pole, and it's a lot easier to club a salmon than it is to kill Bambi.
A walrus. I mean,
or
a baby seal. It's a lot easier feeling.
Yeah, but look at this coat. It's all
my little water dog.
But
agreed.
Yeah. So I feel like fishing is a great introduction to outdoors and actually getting someone into hunting. Like that feeling of when you catch a fish and you eat it. I mean, it's not, like you said, that connection. It's not just pride, but it's like, I got this, and it tastes actually really good. And there's a whole symbiotic connection of when it all comes around, when you eat it and you catch it. And, you're just saying earlier, like bass fishing and stuff, but I feel like fishing's I mean, how many parents go take little Billy or Janie out and put a worm on a hook and teach her a life lesson, talk about life and connect and actually get food? Like,
well, even
not that many these days.
Even not a child, but like an adult, right? Like, having like, my first experience of eating meat that I caught, killed was a fish, and that like there, I think there's something to having like a scaly creature that's not human. Or isn't like my dog,
cuddly. Not cuddly.
There's like that, because I feel like you can get people to go fishing, because non-hunters fish,
yes,
but all hunters fish,
yes,
but also like, so you got that or bird hunting. Yeah, I think you can get a lot of people out and hunt, pheasant or duck or grouse or whatever you're wanting to get them to go and hunt. Like that's going to be a really easy transition for people, because they're not looking at it like, oh, my dog at home has the same fur.
Well, even duck is a step up. Like Ranella talks about, like you don't feel bad when you kill a mosquito most times.
I just killed a bug right here.
Yeah, but that's a higher.
But I would have killed a deer too.
But if that bug was 12 times bigger, like the size of a mouse, that's kind of
like
harder.
My favorite documentary, Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
They killed the big bugs. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I have not.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Starship Troopers is like...
Super Troopers.
Yeah, that's
that would
more
be a good hybrid.
Yeah. Starship
Super
Troopers, like there's an invasion of like bugs that are trying to take over like planet. It's a futuristic, movie, but like these
it's
bugs
a documentary brought back from the future.
Okay.
Anyway, They kill bugs.
Okay. Well, I like the idea of that.
Yeah,
I
it was
don't
like an
bugs.
early 90s, you know.
Mike, have you not seen this movie? You're
Oh,
looking
I've
at us
seen
with a
it.
blank face.
No, I just
He's like, what does this have to do with anything? That's what he's saying.
all I'm thinking is there's a lot of Nazi overtones in that, weren't there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was interested. Yeah,
So what were we talking about?
Hunting and how
Hunting
it's
and bugs.
Fishing.
and,
Killing things.
Oh, it's easier to kill a fish
Yeah.
than it is a deer.
yeah, it is. It's easier to kill small.
To me,
things.
deer look like giant, overgrown ground squirrels.
Yeah. Speaking of ground squirrels, that was the first thing I ever killed.
that
And I
right?
remember
Oh,
the
nice.
moment very vividly. Like we were in Montana and we were, shooting ground squirrels and stuff. And I was like, I started crying and I was like, Dad, why do I feel like I feel bad for feeling good for, shooting these, little innocent creatures. And he's like, well, we need to, there's, all these different reasons why, these things are bad in this area and blah, blah, blah. And he did just like such a good way of explaining it to me. And I'm logical and I just clicked and I've never I feel guilt, I don't feel guilty. I feel, sadness when I kill an animal, but I know that I did it in the best possible manner.
We shoot a lot of ground squirrels down at my parents' place because they have 200 acres of hazelnuts. And so a single squirrel will take 50 pounds of nuts a year.
Yeah, they're super detrimental to crops.
But like, I also can't bring myself to shoot thing. You know what I mean? Like I've had, the coyotes will come into the surrounding fields, but they don't come into the orchard. And so I've been out there and had them in my crosshairs and I just can't do it because I'm like, they're just out there doing what coyotes do.
Yeah.
And they're not bothering the orchard. So what am I doing? And I can't like I've been right there with like my finger on the trigger and thought, nah, can't do it. Can't do it.
I'll do it.
I love shooting coyotes.
Yeah, let me out on that. Yeah. Well, that was one thing I was going to ask. Like, is your house just full of pelts? Like,
Yes.
you guys keep all those pelts and stuff. Like, I would love, because I've never shot a coyote.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you believe that crap? Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, I just never got into it. It was always like, okay, I'm gonna do this for meat.
Yeah.
And as part of me is like, I want to go shoot one of these things and maybe just get a little aggression out because I got 4 dogs.
Yeah.
And I can't shoot them. Just kidding.
I just want to shoot a corgi. One of these days I'm going to shoot a goddamn corgi.
I love my dog, but golly, can they make me mad?
Oh yeah.
God.
No, we have a lot of furs in our house. We've got, some rugs but just like a lot of hanging pelts. Like our bedroom's got like I think 6 in it. I have an awesome picture of them all laid out on the couch and I'm laying on them on the couch.
Well, there's something nice about like furs, like just people like lose that connection. I mean, we've talked about like different fibers that we wear. They're not good for your body, right? So like having like
Plastics.
polyester, like this is all what I'm wearing right now is just nothing but plastic.
Yeah,
It's not a
probably these
natural
t-shirts.
material.
Yeah, it's
Like
all polyester.
Yeah, cotton is natural, wool is natural, furs are natural. And there's something to having actual natural fibers and furs around you that like it makes you feel better. Like I like wood, I like rock, I like all those things, but when you're around a bunch of
I love rock.
I love rocks.
I love lamp.
Yeah. But there's something to that. Like there's something that like makes you feel good about having like fur. Like you don't ever see anybody see fur and not go up and put their fucking hand on it.
Pet it for a while.
Yeah, everybody does it. Everybody does it. Even if it's like, some people are like, oh, that's a dead animal, and they won't, and they're freaked out about it. But it's like, they want to touch it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
know?
At my dad's house when I was growing up, we had them, all along the back of the couch and stuff. And I had, a friend come over and she, leans up against the couch and, she's kind of petting it. And then she's like, feels something kind of like hard on it. She looks at it and it's got, the face on it. Still, she's like, oh, then she's weirded out by it. It's like, oh,
this
you
is
didn't like it
real.
now that it has a face. Okay.
This is real. It came from a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about having like natural. I would love to go on a bear hunt for like brown bear and get a rug.
What's the difference between a brown bear and a grizzly bear?
Brown bear are coastal.
Yeah. It's their region. So like, you have in Kodiak, you have brown bears, and along the coast and stuff, you have brown bears, and then inland are grizzly bears. So
Are they genetically the same, or is it literally 2 different species?
I think they're 2 different species. But
they definitely get bigger on the coast, but that just could be food availability.
Oh, so
yeah.
a brown bear is bigger than a grizzly.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit! I
Yeah.
thought grizzlies were the
Like
kings.
Kodiak brown bears are massive.
Yeah.
I think
they're
they're
not-
like the biggest.
Okay, and they're not grizzlies.
Technically, I don't believe so. But I mean, I'm
That's a good
speaking above
question.
my pay grade.
Yeah,
on
me
that.
too.
I thought a brown bear was a grizzly.
me
that
too,
was
but I
different.
don't-
A grizzly can be
Not
a brown
all-
bear, but a brown
Not
bear
all
can't
grizzlies
be
are brown bears,
It
but all
depends on how
brown
they
bears
identify.
are
Yeah. I guess when you're just talking about them, that's just like regions.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it. I know that there's a difference, and the brown bears, I believe, are the big ones.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought the grizzlies were the monsters.
They're the mean ones you don't want to have
good-
any
yeah,
encounters with, for
exactly.
sure. Brown bears on the coast, and that's like what we had when we were in Alaska. Was all around us was brown bears, and
Oh, so they're well fed on salmon. They're
yeah,
like,
they don't
whatever.
mess with you unless you get between a sow and cubs. You pretty much are safe.
Did you ever see Grizzly Man?
That's the guy who like lived in the woods with the bears and stuff.
Yeah, in Alaska. He ended up
Ate 'em.
getting eaten. Yeah.
yeah, and they're my friends.
yeah.
Good call, guy.
Yeah. Every day, my husband had this like yearling bear that would come down to where they'd park their boat, and he'd like try to get in the boat. He'd put his paws on the boat and he'd like bounce on it. He's trying to steal life jackets and stuff. Like it was just like a little raccoon, but it was a big bear.
Yeah, a super deadly raccoon.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Black bears are like overgrown raccoons.
Yeah. Those little trash pandas. Big,
Yeah, no
big
doubt.
trash pandas.
Yeah, I got a buddy who lives on what is that? Bear Creek, and
Are there bears on Bear Creek?
In
There
Monroe?
are in Woodinville.
Whoa.
And he has bears constantly coming up and just tearing up his trash cans. You know, and then
That's why they don't call it the creek.
yeah, he's got a couple English bulldogs that come out and like, rah, 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 get the hell out of here, you know. And it's like these bears go running off, and it's just like, oh, that's he
If
sends
only
me
they knew.
videos. Yeah. Oh, they have no clue. Yeah. But I also feel like some bears just they don't understand necessarily how big they are compared to like this dog that's coming out all
Right.
aggressive, you know. So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we are at the 2-hour mark.
Wow.
Kourtney, do you have any websites or social media you want to plug?
Well, I don't have a personal website, but like, Benchmark Barrels, if you want to go check them out, it's benchmark-barrels.com. And then Handguns TV, or handgunsmagazine.com for the TV show. And then, I'm on Instagram as PNW Court, and that's Court with a K.
Kourtney with a K.
What's the TV shows you're on?
Handguns and defensive weapons, and handguns now, but yeah,
Okay.
it's one show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there? I'm sorry to keep going. Are there other shows that like you're thinking about, or like is there any talk of anything
No.
like that? Just doing that.
That's
But
what I got going now.
now you're a full host.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I got a question. You said handguns and defensive weapons.
Mm-hmm.
What does defensive weapons qualify as? Like a
Samurai sword.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
No, like shotguns and ARs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, but
So no ball and mace or just real medieval stuff.
no medieval stuff. No, but we talk about flashlight tactics and knives and stuff too.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's going just to be handguns now.
Okay. On that line, and I again keeping it going because why not? We're here now. I got you here because I got to ask you after anyway. What do you carry?
Well,
yeah,
it depends on what I'm wearing. Since I am, getting a little bit too big for all of my clothes these days, concealed carrying is much more challenging. But I have a LCP right now. But I like my choice.
What's an LCP?
A Ruger, little tiny pocket pistol. It's just right there. And then I have a 365 XL that I would carry normally. But yeah, belts and stuff. Nothing really sits right these days. So
Yeah.
have to modify a little bit. But yeah.
Okay.
LCP,
Right on.
yeah.
Yeah. LCP and preferably.
What's
a
the
stick.
LCP chambered in? Is that 380?
380, yeah. Okay. I love it. It's kind of a girly little pistol, but it's fantastic because you can just throw it, in your pocket or in a pocket in your purse or whatever, and just you always have something on you. You don't have an excuse to not carry something because my shirt's too tight or whatever. It doesn't take up any room, and you always have that assurance that you have something.
And your SIG's a 9. I take
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's a 9. It carries 13 rounds instead of 6.
Yeah.
So. And it has a red dot on it. It's way better.
Yeah.
Way more better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, those red dots make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Such a big difference.
Absolutely.
So I just got my girlfriend one. So
Nice.
I'm sorry, she bought it. I don't want anybody
Don't
to.
say that.
Yeah, golly. I don't know. They were recording this. These
SWAT
gun laws
team's
are getting-
already roping in on your house right now.
And the FBI called Tobin just the other day. So get ready.
I'm on the naughty list.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can find us at Instagram, Enlightened Neanderthals, all one word. That's Jordan managing that. So again,
Why do you keep saying that? Because he's like, because this is
Send all the hate to Jordan.
send dick pics to Enlightened Neanderthals, all one word on Instagram.
We have a huge female following. I'll have you know.
Right here.
We're up to 4 now. Our wives and Kourtney.
Oh my God, they talked about bullet calibers for like an hour. I couldn't turn it off.
So interesting. What can I say? Anyway,
Oh man. And Training Northwest LLC.com. Mike.
Electric North Jiu-Jitsu. Come
know.
wrestle me.
Yeah. Jordan, you got anything you want to plug?
no. No. Later, maybe we'll see. I'm working on it.
All right, guys.
Have a good
Thanks
one.
for listening.